Good evening, all, and welcome back to the virtual World Center of Racing, Daytona International Speedway, where the third night in the journey to the 2026 PGR 500 rolls on, and it has been absolute chaos and calamity so far. We've seen upsets, we've seen underdog victories, and who knows what we're going to see here tonight. We've got a great lineup, a lot of big names in the heat races tonight as we get ready to get things rolling here at Daytona. And as always, we want to thank all of our sponsors this week, including That Towing Company, Chris Carter Racing, along with Flying Aces, NBG Motorsports for their continuing contribution to PGR, and at Dadbod Studios for all that they do. That'll lead us into tonight's heat race sponsor, powered by Smooth Rider Smoothies, Cleveland's premier smoothie food truck, delivering premium, healthy smoothies for life on the move. You can also visit their brick-and-mortar flagship store located in Cleveland's Ohio City neighborhood. Fuel up the right way with Smoothie Riders Smoothie. And I want to bring in all of our great crew that's back here tonight at Daytona. Joining me in the booth, my partner Dawson Wise. Tyler Vickery going to be making his debut as pit reporter for us here tonight. And then doing all the hard work behind the scenes, our amazing producer, DJ Line. We'll also have Justin Prince joining us for heat race number 7 coming up later tonight. But Dawson, here we are back at Daytona for another night of heat racing.
And what a fun week it's been so far, Austin. Grateful to be back here at the Daytona International Speedway for a third night of racing in the PGR 500. And you said it best, with the upsets that we've had so far, you truly do not know what to expect going into this third night of racing here, this 2.5-mile famed super speedway. We've had upset winners here this week. My mind goes to James Bomar in Heat 1, Jacob Dunn in Heat 2, a couple of upset winners last night as well. And my mind goes to guys that are no longer in the event, to names like Malik Ray and Logan Helton and others that are no longer racing in the PGR 500. It's been a lot of twists and turns so far in this event. Surely there will be more tonight. 6, 7, and 8 are the heat numbers on tap here this evening, as we are about halfway through the preliminary process of this PGR 500. Of course, coming up later in the week, Friday night, we'll find out who will start on the front row for the Sunday afternoon Great American Sim Race. Saturday is when the nitty-gritty starts. The LCQs and the duels will whittle the field down to the final 43 drivers that will contest 500 miles on Sunday afternoon right here at Daytona, the second annual PGR 500. Race analysis the same as it's been, 30 laps, 100% fuel, no pit stops required, 1 overtime attempt, and a note about that, every one of the first 5 heat races has gone into that extra overtime attempt. 1 fast repair, which a lot of guys had to use in last night's affairs, and the fixed setup from TWRS. It's been awfully racy so far this week.
And we saw, of course, a lot of big wrecks at the end of the heat races so far, Dawson. We'll have to see how it pans out tonight. Qualifying is getting ready to get wrapped up, and that means we are just moments away from heading down trackside and getting into tonight's starting grid. The other thing to note, Dawson, we talk about big names. Well, I know we're getting into the grid here in just a moment. One thing I can tell you, though, the man who is going to start on the pole here for heat race number 6 is the same driver who started on the pole for last year's PGR 500, and that was, of course, Ethan Eckert. You go back to, obviously, some of the other big names that didn't make it in. I think back to Malik Ray. You look at Logan Helton. These are names that we're used to seeing in the feature, but they're not going to have an opportunity this week. We'll see if we get any more upsets here tonight. All right, with that, we're going to get down trackside and get things rolling here tonight with your starting grid. The man who's going to start with the best seat in the house tonight is Ethan Eckert. He will have that pole position here for heat race number 6. Jackson Anderson will start to his outside in the 83 machine. It's going to be one of NBG's own. Jeff Merck to the outside, back on the inside. He'll start 3rd. Cody Rogers back in 4th in the number 11 car. McCullough Motorsports will start the entry for Joshua McCullough back in 5th. And it's going to be Cameron Craighead in the 6th spot. As we move on back to row number 4, it's going to be Cole Larson. We've seen him in a lot of these big events before. He'll roll off 7th. Paul Gallimore to the outside in 8th. It's going to be Joshua Sutherland in 9th. And Michael Fritsch in the 68, rounding out your top 10.
Big name back there in Michael Frisch. He will go from 10th. George Jewell will go from the 11th position in car number 36 to his outside the returning Justin Tutuchin in the 42. He'll go from position number 12. As we move back to row 7, it's Anthony Trippi in the 84. Made his return in a recruitment race last week. He'll go from 13th. And it's series owner Michael Triscaro as he looks to make a start in the second annual PGR 500. His run begins tonight in Heat 6. He'll go from 14th. Row 8, it's Justin Byers in the car number 27. And alongside him, J.D. Larson in the 19 machine in 16th. Row 9, going to be Sean Futrell in the 8. Alongside him, it's Michael Tucker in car number 17. Rounding out the top 20, Ricky Stewart in the 18 machine. Austin Sale will round it out in the 22.
And one of the Canadian drivers here in heat race number 6, Jordan Stensel, will roll off 21st here tonight. He's going to have Jeremy Osborne for Blind Squirrel Racing to his outside in 22nd. Back in row number 12, it's a pair of Toyotas, Justin Champagne alongside Nathaniel Pollard, and rolling right on back to the 25th spot here tonight, it's going to be Landon Rainey. He'll have Francisco Villarreal. We've seen what he's been able to do, finding success here at these super speedways in the past. He'll roll off 26. It's going to be Richard Wolsefier to his inside in 27th. Benjamin Elliott's back in 28th. Josh Nelms in 29th, and it's going to be James Waring rounding out your 30-car heat race 6. Well, Dawson, here we are. We're getting ready to go green, and we have seen just about everything you could expect so far this week. Calm starts, chaotic starts. We even had yesterday the biggest wreck we've had all week at the initial start of the heat, so I got to wonder what is going through these guys' heads here as we gear up to get the night going.
Well, I can't imagine it helps the nerves at all, and I can tell you, being a driver in one of these heat races before, it is the longest part of the night right here as we're going on this one parade lap before we get under the green flag. There's all kinds of thoughts rolling through your head. Well, what if something happens on the opening lap? And what if I get shuffled out of line? And what if I'm in a bad position? There's all kinds of questions going through your head, and I think all last night did was reinforce those questions and maybe make them a little bit louder, to where we saw something happen early in that race all the way at the front of the field that changed a lot of guys' nights from the very start. So I can't imagine it helps the nerves or the jitters that these drivers inevitably have. Also may make them a little more cautious here on the opening start to get up through the gears, take a deep breath, and go to battle after that.
Absolutely, and do want to introduce another new sponsor that has come on board here tonight for the rest of the week, and that is Simrap Market. They will be sponsoring the Restart Zone here at Daytona, so we appreciate them for coming on board, as we have got a lot to break down here tonight. But for Ethan Eckert, he has been in this place before in the biggest event of them all, last year's PGR 500 pole sitter, ready to lead us to green here tonight. Pace car going to make the left turn. Field now going to roll into the Simrap Market Restart Zone. Here we go. Green flag is in the air. We are racing at Daytona.
The field will rocket off turn 2 and down the Daytona super stretch for the first time, and the pole sitter Eckert will be relegated to second on the bottom. Cody Rogers turns left onto the nose of the AutoZone Mustang. He'll take the lead here into 3 in a battle with Jackson Anderson. Anderson's help is now Craighead, followed by another one of the BMP performance entries. That is Paul Gallimore in that yellow and black Chevrolet, third on the outside. It's all Rogers up front, though. How about the move early from the 11 car?
Jackson Anderson fading a little bit on the outside, but he has got one of the most experienced younger drivers in the heat here tonight. Cameron Craighead trying to push this outside back to the front as they'll draw even into turn 1. Further back we go, though. Paul Gilmore, Joshua McCullough, a lot of names, Dawson, that are already trying to be aggressive early, but one thing we have not seen is anybody trying to go to that third lane just yet. Tame start through 1.5 laps here at Daytona. Still 2x2 as now Eckert's going to look back to the outside.
Not surprising at all that Ethan Eckert wants to lead as many laps as possible. Last year, he sat on the pole for the PGR 500, but at the time, I don't think he was quite as refined a driver as he is now this time around in the second iteration of this race. Eckert has really rounded out his skills over the last 365 days, gone to PGR victory lane multiple times, and is now ready to contend not only just to sit on the pole and lead laps, but to win the Great American Sim Race come Sunday afternoon. He'll lead lap 2. It's Anderson now that turns left to the inside of the nose of the Hey Dude Chevrolet of Cameron Craighead. One of the upstarts in the community, a former winner in the PGR Light Series, goes to second, tries to clear up with Anderson, can't do it. Eckert will fill that gap. Craighead leads the bottom on Rogers' push, and it is fast and furious here at the front. Michael Frisch, a guy I had my eye on, again a veteran of the super speedway community. He's fourth on the outside, pushing hard, coming to the front. I believe it might be one of his first PGR starts, and he's up in the action early. Anderson leads off 4.
He's already one of your biggest movers through the field. He's picked up 3 spots since the drop of the green so far here tonight. By the way, it's worth noting as you look back through the rest of this field, you notice towards the back of the pack, a little bit of room being given. It's almost like there's a group of guys back towards Ricky Stort, Nathaniel Pollard, Landon Rainey, that are just content to ride right now. I know 30 laps isn't a lot of time here at Daytona. Watch out, trouble. One's going to go around in the back of the field. Caution going to fly for the first time here tonight. And that's going to collect, it looks like, one or two of them in total here. Just about everybody up front is okay. There was no big issues there, but this was back right around Jordan Stencel. Richard Wolsefir, you notice he's slow, and he's actually going to take it to the pits. And this is our first caution of the night, powered by the NASRA Racing Network. As we'll get a breakdown of this, Dawson, trouble early here, and it started as they went into turn one.
This is all the way at the tail end of the field. These are the last two cars in line, as it's Wolsefir who's going to jump out of line up around the outside of a couple of cars back here towards the tail end of the field. And the outside stacks up. You see that in front of Wolsefir. It's actually a different car that gets out of shape. Man, Stencil, that's a big hit there. There's one other car involved in this as well, I think. And don't quote me on this. It might be either the one of Benjamin Elliott or the Francisco Villarreal machine. There's the Stencil car. He's got major damage. I'm wondering who the first car was up ahead of him to get around. It happens with this stack up top. It is the one of Elliott that's going to go sideways. Big hits there for Wolsefir and Stencil. Both are going to have to come either take their fast repairs or get extensive damage repaired on pit road.
Yeah, and the tough break here for Elliott with that big checkup, Dawson, is that he gets kind of shot out of line. The 27's trying to cut him a break, but that stack up just snowballs back so quickly. A lot of these guys can't jam on the brakes enough, or they get run over from behind. And yeah, once that contact starts, it's on from there. And you mentioned here a couple of pretty decent shots. We saw one car have to tow it to the pit, so this is going to be early calamity for the guys who are really trying to take it easy, Dawson. But on the flip side of, the idea that staying in the back is playing it safe, that's also what you have to worry about. Checkups that start maybe mid-pack or a little bit further back, getting bigger and bigger the further back you go in the pack, and in this case, collecting Elliott and multiple others for your first caution of the night.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, stack-ups are something that we see in this car quite a bit, especially with this new aero package that we've had on this next-gen race car for a few weeks now, more on the lines of a couple months. We've seen these stack-ups start towards the front of the field, and as they work back, they get worse. And when you get 15 cars in line that are having to push the car in front of them, of course, when those stack-ups start, they're going to be magnified even more than they were in the older next-gen package. If you'll remember, you were not able to push 6, 7, 8 cars deep in those races. These, you're able to push as many cars deep as you want. If you can square up that push on the guy in front of you, of course, the stack-up's going to be worse when that happens. And here you see the guys coming down pit road. Elliott is one of them. Stencil is another one. Wolsefir has continued to sit on pit road. I believe he has lost a second lap, an early setback for Wolsefir if he is to make a run into the Saturday portion of the PGR 500.
And speaking on the topic of pushing, Dawson, I thought Justin brought up a great point yesterday. This package so different than the way it used to be. You used to be able to get maybe one or two teammates, get tanded up and go to the front, but it takes a lot more work than that now, and that's the risk, right? You got to get 4 or 5 cars connected to really get going to the front. But when you do that, it obviously increases the possibility of somebody either getting an offset push or a stack up leading to a wreck. And one of the guys, the result of it right there, is the man you see on pit road right now, Benjamin Elliott, trying to get a little bit of damage repaired. It looks like that nose is getting cleaned up pretty good, Dawson, so I'm not sure if he's just going to use the optional fix here. Don't think he's going to decide to use the fast repair. And then you notice just in front of him there is Richard Wolsefir, who obviously has a lot more notable damage, and he will be on pit road for quite a bit of time. Well, while we are under caution, you heard me mention as the caution flew, all yellow flags as we go throughout this week going to be powered by the NASRA Racing Network. We appreciate everything they do. And the NASRA 6 Hours of Le Mans is coming up on March 7th. 6 hours of strategy, teamwork, and endurance. You can catch that all live only on the NASRA 360 Racing Network. The other thing to keep in mind, Dawson, I know a lot of folks probably just tuning in here tonight for the first time. We talked about the payouts. This year it's going to be the biggest payout we have had in PGR history, over $11,000. But we talk about what it means just to win in a heat race. I think back to Aaron Brown last night. We saw the reaction, how much it meant for him to be off to a good start early in the week. And you got to think that a guy like Ethan Eckert, Cameron Craighead, some of the younger drivers in the series, how much it would mean to them to have a shot to race for the pole shootout on Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I go back to talking about, Craighead and even Jackson Anderson as guys just looking for the opportunity to break through. And sometimes that's all it takes to vault you into a potential to contend on Sunday as well. To where, say, Jackson Anderson or Eckert or Craighead, or even you look a little bit further back to a guy like, I'm looking at Josh McCullough or Cole Larson or Michael Triscaro. You talk about just needing the win under your belt. to maybe vault you into success later in the week. Also, it could mean a lot more than just $60 and a chance to race and win the pole shootout. It could mean more momentum headed into your dual race on Saturday and then into the feature on Sunday. We saw last year the importance of momentum, not only in the weeks leading up to this event, but also in the week of the event. Of course, Daniel Falkingham ran very well in his heat race, very well in his dual race, and that translated directly into the Sunday afternoon feature, where he then took home the PGR 500 championship. So, judging on the guys that have already won heats and have already run well in this heat race tonight, I think you could say the same about them. You catch fire at the right time, you could very easily see one of those guys in victory lane. Of course, we already mentioned Eckert, but I think Craighead, Anderson, a few of the guys running further back have just as much potential to do so as well.
Absolutely. Well, we're getting ready to go back green here for the first time tonight. A couple of names that we want to give a big shout out to. Obviously, you look back towards the 34 machine, Michael Triscaro. He's got a beautiful paint scheme on board his car tonight. And Michael, of course, series owner. And boy, what a long way he has brought this series since it started back 3 years ago. So we'll have to see what Mike can do. He's already picked up 4 positions from where he started this race at tonight. Up front, though, it is going to be Jackson Anderson and Ethan Eckert that line up here on the front row for the first restart of the night. Craighead and Gallimore back in row 2. It's going to be Cody Rogers and Michael Fritsch back in row number 3. So your top 6, most of them at least, have already been making up spots since the start of this race. And I just wonder here, how aggressive do you get if you're Jackson Anderson or Ethan Eckert on this restart? We know Eckert likes to be in control up front, but we do still have a decent amount of time here left in heat race number 6. Pace car going to pull off once again. Field now rolling back into the Simrat Market restart zone. Green flag is back in the air at Daytona. This time it's a good jump for the outside line. Jackson Anderson's going to be Ethan Eckert through the gears, and he is quickly going to jump down to the bottom of the racetrack. Further back, Craighead going to slam the door as he now jumps to the high side. He'll pick up a position over Michael Fritsch. 2x2 as they climb the banking into turn 1.
A little surprising there from Craighead. It looked as if with Anderson moving down in front of Eckert that bottom lane was going to roll similar to how we saw it roll last night during a couple of those heat races. Instead now he moves up in the middle. It's going to force a few drivers out of line to the wall. A few going to the high rent district here on lap 8. It's Frisch that leads that line. Josh McCullough's joined the party, and here comes Michael Triscaro. Trouble out back. Jeff Merck's around. The 60's in the wall. More cars getting involved. It's a multi-car accident in turn 4 that's going to collect several of the high names in this one. Jeff Merck is involved.
Caution back out now for the second time here tonight, and that's some big names that were involved in this one. Most notably, obviously, Jeff Merck. Looks like Landon Rainey involved in this accident here as well. The 24 is going to have to go in potentially either for some repairs, or if nothing else, he'll have to go to the back of the field. As we go back and get a replay of this one here. Dawson, they were coming down the backstretch. You saw Fritsch get on the outside, got a lot of momentum. Jeff Merck going to jump up to the 3rd lane. But then what happens here is they go into the corner. You saw Tatuchon, top of your screen. He jumped down, no issues there. Oh man, it looks like the 11 just coming up the racetrack just a little bit. It doesn't take much. That was Cody Rogers, and as soon as he gets into Merck, nothing the 60 can do. He's along for the ride from there and collects about 3 or 4 of them in the process.
Yeah, a tough one there, but one we saw quite a bit over the past couple of weeks, and even this week so far in heat races. You're actually going to be on board with the car that we were watching there, the 11 of Rogers. He's going to drift up just the slightest bit. We'll have to see for sure if it's contact or if it's netcode. We have seen both on that left rear quarter panel of this next-gen car. There goes Tutuchin. You'll see Merck come into your frame here shortly up around Rogers. There's the 60, and going in the corner, the 11 of Rogers moves up. There actually is some contact there between he and Jeff Merck, and it sends the 60 into a sideways slide, and he's going to collect a couple out back. Cole Larson's going to get a piece of this, at least I believe that's Cole in there. Him and his dad, JD, are both in this heat, so one of the 2 Larsons is involved. Merck comes up, actually collects a couple more of them against the wall as well. That was car number 36 of George Jewell. It might have also been Justin Champagne in the 38, and then Byers and a few others come in from out back as well. It's a tough break, but it's one we've seen a lot this week, especially on entry to corner number 3. Guys drift up off the bottom lane just a little bit, make some contact. When you're running 3 wide, there's just nowhere to go.
Yeah, and it looked like Jewell got definitely the worst end of the stick on that one, but you know, we talk about obviously setting the car when you go into the corner here at Daytona, Dawson, but remember, these got the big duckbill spoiler on the back, and I just wonder if sometimes you get a little bit of that tunnel vision. You're so focused on trying to push the guy in front of you that maybe Rogers was just trying to peek out, trying to get a gauge on where they were on the racetrack. Whatever the case was, as he drifted up, nothing Jeff Merck could do, and with this putting us under the second caution of the night, looks like Merck is going to be okay here, Dawson. topping off on maybe some fuel, maybe getting a little bit of extra damage fixed, but that car looks to be pretty clean. We've got multiple drivers here doing the same, and this is going to give us a restart now with less than 20 laps to go. So we're still not quite at the halfway point, but we're starting to see that desperation pick up slowly but surely now. We talked about Fritsch obviously jumping to that third lane, and he got a lot of help to go with him. He's picked up 6 spots from where he started this race at so far. Justin Tutuchan, he's picked up 7 positions from where he started this race at. Joshua McCullough, Michael Triscaro, all these guys that are inside the top 10. I wouldn't be too shocked if that third lane gets going again.
They got it rolling for the first time tonight, and it was led by Michael Frisch, but really it was Josh McCullough and Michael Triscaro, two of the more experienced super speedway racers in this field, that got it rolling early, and that was about the earliest we've seen the third lane go since Heat 3 with Malik Ray and Heat 1 with Rajah Caruth, when they both tried it in the first 10 laps and got it to move a little bit as well. So interesting to me that guys are already up there up against the safer barrier trying to make that line roll. Not surprising to me, the guys that are doing it. Again, Frisch, McCullough, Triscaro, we talk about the pedigree that those 3 guys have on super speedways. I would not be surprised to see those 3 get up there again. Ethan Eckert is a guy I look for as well. He's been shuffled back to the 9th position after he started on the pole in this race. Wanted to go back and turn around to Tutuchan again, though. It's interesting you mention him. Justin Tutuchan is a guy that raced in last year's PGR 500 heats, started last year's SummerSlam 499. He has a ton of crown jewel experience here in PGR eSports, ran a lot of the recruitment races as well. I think the preparation and the existing experience goes such a long way. He was a guy I was watching as well to get to the front of this heat race and know where to put himself to advance. He's done it a couple times before. Definitely look to him. And Jackson Anderson is another one of guys that have raced in these events before. Anderson started last year's PGR 500. I look to both of them to be two of the more experienced guys that may fly under the radar to advance out of today and into Saturday.
Be an interesting mix-up, that's for sure. 4 Chevys, by the way, at the front of the field. Joshua McCullough, the first Toyota, as he currently sits back in the 5th spot. And one thing we still haven't seen a lot of, Dawson, and I heard drivers talking about this post-race last night, is big teams throughout these heats. Everybody's been split up, and that certainly played into some of the results we've seen. Guys that we expected to make it that haven't made it, drivers that maybe we thought wouldn't have as good of a shot because they weren't on these big teams that did advance through. And that is certainly also going to make it very interesting as we get into Saturday with the LCQ and duels, and then also as we get into Sunday, of course, with the 500 features. So it's something we'll keep tabs on as we go through the next 6 heats, which of course we've got 2 more coming up here tonight after the conclusion of heat race number 6. The 83 of Jackson Anderson, currently leading the field though. He's picked up a spot from where he started this race at. And we go back to really about the 5th spot with Joshua McCullough. I'd be interested to see if he tries to work together here with Michael Triscaro. Obviously, those two have ran together before, not necessarily on the same team, but got to think there's some sort of agreement here to try to work together. Anthony Trippi, he's been doing a good job so far here tonight as well. And as we do get geared up for this restart, it's going to be very interesting to see which line rolls this time around. Last time it was the outside lane that got the better jump. Anderson was able to clear down and take control. We'll have to see how it pans out this time here, but Ethan Eckert, Dawson, that's the story going the wrong direction. He's back down to 10th. It shows you how easily it is to get buried here.
Easy to get buried, but as we saw right there, the third lane can go if you get the right cars behind you, or you can get up to the middle here on the restart. We've seen guys utilize that as well. Craighead just did on the last restart. 19 laps to go here in this 6th heat race of the PGR 500. Green flag back in the air. Anderson off to the races, but how about the jump from Paul Gallimore on the bottom? Actually will nose ahead of Anderson. Problem is the help will be topside first. Frisch gets to Anderson. Craighead coming to the back of Paul Gallimore. Another one again of those beast mode performance cars. We saw Chris Davis last night. Gallimore tonight. We'll see Matt Cox later on tonight for that group as well. With Gallimore on the inside, the accomplished racer on the league side of things, trying to go door to door here with Anderson, who again started last year's race. Frisch pushes through him. Josh McCullough coming forward. The 62, that's Josh Sutherland. First time to the front for him as well.
And it's about 6 cars in each line. The difference was the outside was more connected. Everybody was pushing and shoving, and that has now got about 3 cars clear. Joshua McCullough, though, not going to jump down. Frisch at the moment content to stay up top as the lead pusher. And we got one in the wall further towards the back. I don't think this is going to draw a caution, but certainly an issue there. I can't tell who that was. That might have been Cody Rogers in the 11. He's got some right front damage as a result of that contact, as he looks to be a little slow coming across the line, but either way, we will keep the green flag out. Back up front, 3 wide further towards the back, but they're going to stay 2 by 2 now. About the front 3 rows, the 83 of Jackson Anderson continues to lead. How about on the bottom now, trying to get to the front? Here we go, 2 by 2 down the super stretch.
Gallimore will nose out front for the first time. Craighead and Tutunchin, and now Triscaro aiding him. One just blew up. Cameron Craighead's expired the motor. He slides sideways. He's trying to keep it off the racetrack. He will not be able to. Craighead comes back up. He did not collect any cars. I have no idea how we did not collect at least 5 to 6 cars, but Craighead will have to hope he can limp that Hey Dude Chevy back to pit road, as he has become the 3rd driver to blow their motor in PGR 500 competition.
Very similar to what we saw for John Ward yesterday. Early after a restart, too, the 48, look at that. Connected all the way on the back bumper of the 11 as they come off of turn 2. Pushes him all the way down the backstretch, and Paul here not doing anything wrong, but you just notice the 48 not able to lift. He's got a car on his back bumper, and eventually the motor expires. And Dawson, that is extremely lucky for the rest of the field that the 48 was able to get down to the inside and then check up just enough for everybody else to sneak by before that car eventually made it back onto the banking. Still green flag, though, and 3 wide now towards the front of the field. Ethan Eckert now leads the charge on the high side. Paul Gallimore still leads the bottom, and now it's the 83 of Jackson Anderson that's going to jump to the high side.
Oh, but Eckert not letting him have much room to breathe. Eckert turns left on corner exit, jumps down. Anderson gives him a door bang here into turn 1. It's like a short track Saturday night at 200 miles an hour. Eckert and Anderson trade some paint. Now they'll get back to being civilized for now. Eckert in the center, pushed by Michael Frisch. Top side is Anderson, pushed by Austin Sale in the 22. First time he's been up. Gets the wall on exit, holds that car straight, and will push Anderson all the way to the lead. Cameron Craighead, bottom side, 4 wide, staggered for a moment. Everybody gets through it. Unbelievable racing is now at 6 rows of 3 wide. McCullough turns left onto Gallimore's nose. He wants to go to the lead here eventually. He will not get the help here off turn 4, though. Not a great decision, I don't think, by Josh McCullough, as that line continues to fade backwards. Middle lane's got all the momentum. Back to Michael Frisch, it's clear.
And you notice on the outside here, Austin Sale, he's actually got a little bit of front end damage. The nose of his Chevy is caved in. You got to wonder if that's affecting the arrow of that race car leading this 3rd line as they continue to fade. Now the 16 is going to get into the outside wall. The 3rd lane really falls back. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, best view in the house, and it goes to Jackson Anderson right now. He leads the middle line, but Joshua McCullough, now he'll start to charge back down on the inside. The 11 of Paul Gallimore, now he's doing the push-in. They've got a 3-deep tandem. Justin Tutunchin trying to get this inside, back out in front. And guess who? The 34, Michael Triscaro. He has now moved back up inside the top 6. Eckert and Frisch up top. Now they're going to get the momentum off of turn 4.
Middle lane side drafts there into turn 3. Some experience in that outside lane. A little more comfortable coming down to side draft that will vault Jackson Anderson back to the point. You're on board with the series owner, Michael Triscaro, as he is 4th on the inside behind Tutunchin. You see how locked in he is? I also want to point out how much that wheel is moving around in his hands as well, as he tries to maneuver this car in the right positions. Gallimore has to back off McCullough. Bottom lane will fade just a little here off turn 2, as Frisch will work clear 3rd on the outside. Sutherland coming into the picture as well. Is going to jump 3 wide. The Brandt Chevy out in front of the returning Jeff Merck. Eckert's going to jump out in front of all of them. The AutoZone Mustang puts the nose in clean air. 3 wide for the lead off turn 4. It's 5 rows of 3 wide all the way back.
And this is by far the most aggression and the longest we've seen it run green so far throughout the week. Ethan Eckert made that jump up. He tried to get a big side draft on the 83 at Anderson, but it wasn't quite enough to get clear. Either way, they're going to stay 3 abreast as they go into turn number 1. Now the top lane's going to get clear. Eckert jumps down the 62 of Sutherland, maybe with an opportunity as well. Now the question becomes, is the 58 of Fritsch running out of temps in the middle?
Well, now to be Anderson pushing in the center, so the 58 can take a moment and cool off. Further back, they start to crash. Craighead, Cole Larson come together. Craighead slides. Big save from the 48. One car all the way down. It might have still been Craighead in that 48 machine that went all the way down on the banking on the back straightaway. Everybody saves it and keeps it going. There's one car out back of Craighead as well that is way off the pace now behind the field. Cody Rogers is one of those cars as well. We got to go back up front because the racing continues. Eckert is clear. They're now all the way clear back to Frisch. Now make it Trippy. Now make it the returning Benjamin Elliott to the front as he vaults back into the 5th position. How about the move from Trippy? He turns left and he wants a chance at the lead.
And I was looking back at that incident real quick, Dawson, just to give you a brief update. It was indeed Osborne and Craighead that both got involved. They are going to need a caution to get back in this one, but now at the front of the field, Ethan Eckert has got him back down to 2x2, about 5 rows deep. Now he's going to try to throw a big block. going into turn 3 on Anthony Trippi. Trippi's having none of it as he'll go back to the high side, but that really stalled the momentum up top as Trippi got blocked. The 05 of Joshua McCullough is going to roll back, and now Anderson thought about taking it 3 wide. He's content, though, to stay as the lead pusher for now. Just 11 laps to go at Daytona, and these guys are getting dicey up front.
And dicey is an understatement. This is some of the most aggressive racing we have seen all week long to this point. These guys are throwing moves like it's Saturday, if not Sunday already. It'll calm down momentarily at the front. Top 4 are clear, back to Justin Tutunchin on the bottom as Gallimore pulls his nose clear. I'll tell you, Michael Triscaro is trying everything he can to get a gap, potentially to move up to the middle and try to improve his position in the 34, the red and black car on the inside. The outside denies him for now, though. Anthony Trippi still leads that lane with Jackson Anderson and Michael Frisch in tow. Benjamin Elliott, Jeff Merck are the aides in that lane as well. This time by, already 10 laps to go. Gallimore leans out of line. Paul Gallimore to the outside. McCullough will throw the block. He had plenty of time. Gallimore takes it to the safer barrier. The unfortunate part there, it was a misjudgment. Nobody goes with him. Gallimore is going backwards. No help for him. 10 rows deep in the field.
Oh, man, it was a bold move for the 11, but it's not going to pan out this time. The question is, does anyone let him back in? Trouble. The 56 hard into the outside wall. Question is, does this bring the caution back out? That was Richard Walsifer with a big hit to the outside safer barrier coming up off of turn 2. We are going to stay green, and this will now eliminate another car out of the lead pack. Major suspension damage, and this could very well end Walsifer's night. Back at the front of the field, though, Joshua McCullough now leads the inside. Eckert up top. Triscaro trying to fade high, but he's going to get split. Jackson Anderson goes 3 wide. The 58 of Fritsch, though, going to stick with the 34 as they come down to the short chute. Into turn 1, though, it's all the 12 of Eckert.
Anderson has a cavalry coming now. It's Justin Champagne, Paul Gallimore, and a couple of others that are coming to his aid. So they'll try to rally that third lane about 5 rows deep in the field just outside of the transfer positions. Up front, McCullough now to the lead. Tutunchin is his push. McCullough up in front of Ethan Eckert. Now Tutunchin leads the bottom. Michael Tucker in the tide ride comes forward. Look at the move by Ethan Eckert into 3. The outside got a monster run on the push from Justin Champagne. Now it's Anderson pushing Eckert. Champagne to the center. The familiar Don Julio Toyota Camry. He started last year's PGR 500. Watch out. 3 cars in 2 lanes. That's not going to work. Gallimore top to middle on Anderson. He goes behind Champagne. This is craziness up front. Eckert back to the lead on the push from Gallimore and Anderson. Now Champagne goes second, and Gallimore's all the way back up to third.
And it's the third lane that's struggling right now. The 12 of Eckert is working really good here in tandem with the 38 of Champagne. The question is, how long does Justin stick with them? They're starting to create a little bit of a gap here. Maybe the best tandem duo we have seen so far this week, but the rest of the pack now going to start to chase him back down. Do notice the 05 of Joshua McCullough. He's got a little bit of damage to the front nose of his Camry. We'll see if that affects him if he tries to lead. Now the 34 of Michael Triscaro going to look back down to the inside. He'll pick up the push, give the push to Joshua McCullough. 3 wide out back, and now we're going to see a move for the lead. Champagne looks to the high side through the tri-oval.
Champagne, big move. He's got Trippi coming to him on the outside lane. They've got one more car coming up there as well. That's Nathaniel Pollard. Eckert runs the inside with Gallimore behind him now as his push. Where did Jackson Anderson come from? He's through the center, and he brings with him the NBG Motorsports 60 of Jeff Merck as they both come through the middle lane. Anderson, his nose is all kinds of punched in. Big time front end damage. He says, who cares? He's coming right back to the front. Big shot there to Ethan Eckert as Eckert throws another block. Gallimore has to now relegate back to Josh McCullough. They are fading just a little. They'll get some help here as Michael Frisch jumps out of line. First time we've seen Frisch lead a lane tonight. He'll jump out. Anderson will jump out. Right back to 2 wide. Further back, Triscaro shuffles bottom to middle. Right in front of Josh Sutherland. Right behind the Cole Larson machine, who has now worked his way into the top 10. That bright green Mountain Dew Chevrolet. 6 laps to go. Suddenly, we've cleaned it back out to 2 wide. But Eckert and Anderson continue their fight within the race. They continue to trade paint back down to 1 and 2.
Justin Champagne, who was just in contention for fighting for the lead, has fallen all the way to the back of the pack. He is going to need a break or some help to get back up here. Starting to run out of time at Daytona, and you can tell the aggression still starting to pick up. One car shooting through the middle further back, but up front, single file for the first 3. Matthew Fritsch, though, trying to fight back on the inside. The 22 up top, he's trying to get a run. What can Austin Sale do? Ethan Eckert, though, up front has been very dominant since he got the lead back. And you know Dawson, he likes to block in that 12 car. You wonder, what would he be willing to do? And don't forget, for Jeff Merck, one of the guys who has that provisional, he's got nothing to lose in this heat race.
Yeah, absolutely. Forgot to mention, of course, that Jeff Merck will at least be in the duels on Saturday by virtue of a provisional. So he runs second right now. In behind Ethan Eckert, it's kind of settled out to single file. About the first 7 cars back to Anthony Trippi are now single file in the middle lane. Not really any moves to the bottom yet. No, change that. Here comes Trippi to the bottom on the push from Frisch. He's the first one to jump out. Triscaro, unsurprisingly to me, is going to stay put here in the middle. He is in a really good spot right now. Unless this bottom continues to roll, now is once he sees it coming, he'll jump down in front of it. Austin Sale down in front of him. Here comes the bottom lane. Eckert's got to play Pied Piper. He'll come down to block. Sale will knock him in the back bumper here as they get past the line. 4 laps to go. All of a sudden, only 10 miles remain. Merck leads the outside all of a sudden with Jackson Anderson and Cole Larson in tow. McCullough and Sutherland try to get the 3rd lane rolling, but the bottom prevails. Austin Sale gets clear to 2nd, and Triscaro's trying to come forward into 3rd.
And they're 3 wide back right around the final transfer positions inside of the top 10. Right now, Benjamin Elliott, who was involved in that first caution, now back in position to advance through to at least the LCQs, but we have got a lot more shuffling that is going to happen. Another move up front now. To the inside goes Austin Sale. He pokes a nose out in front briefly, but it's going to be Eckert and Merck now fighting back on the high side. Those two starting to get a little bit of a feel now. You almost wonder if they work together for the rest of the way. It's going to be just 3 laps to go here at Daytona. Michael Triscaro looks to the outside. That's going to stack up the bottom.
Yeah, they're really struggling to get connected. Triscaro and Sale, this is danger zone for those 2 cars. They have just not been able to rekindle the run they had a moment ago on the bottom. Now they start to move out back. Champagne almost gets hit by the Paul Gallimore machine. That was close quarters on the entrance to turn 1. Gallimore starts the run in the outside, but Pollard gets some contact from the cars in the center, and that's going to fade that line just a little bit. Trippi throws the nose underneath Triscaro. It's going to be a tight quarters, 3 wide. We almost go for trouble. Austin Sale's around. This is the big one in turn 3 as multiple cars come apart. Tunchin's in it, Elliott's in it, Trippi is in it, Frisch is in it, and more pile in from behind.
J.D. Larson in the 18 slides in. We have got multiple cars involved in this one. Sean Futrell. I'm not going to call it the big one, but you know what this will do? It is going to send us to overtime once again. We're going to go back and get a replay here. Again, cautions tonight powered by the NASCAR 360 Racing Network. Here's what it was looking like down the backstretch, Dawson. And you mentioned they got 4 wide right around Michael Triscaro. And I believe it was Austin Sale as well. And just starts to run out of room here coming down towards the end of the super stretch. And it looked like right as that 4 wide move got made, the 22 starts to come down just a row in front. And just nothing everybody else can do as the momentum sweeps back up the racetrack. And that is a couple of big hits right there for Austin Sale. Looks like Elliott spins, but I don't know if he actually got damage. Well, it looks like he's going to as that car comes back up the racetrack to Tunchin. You mentioned he had a great run going, and then, oh man, pretty big hit there towards the end as J.D. Larson swiped the front nose of that 42 machine.
Yeah, that 4 wide staggered move was just not going to work. I did, at the moment that it happened, I did not mind the move from Anthony Trippi. There was space on that bottom lane as Triscaro and Sale just could not get hooked up. And we're in that desperation point in the race where if there's a gap, you oftentimes want to put your car in it. That's what Anthony Trippi did, but on entrance to turn 3, Austin Sale, thinking he's still got that lane to come down to, comes down across the nose, and it is on from there, and this is carnage. Watch on board here as the track will get blocked. There's just nowhere to go. Trying to get on the brakes to Tunchin. There he is, Elliott, Trippi. There's another car there, not marked with a number, not particularly positive which car that is. It's either Larson or Futrell that also gets involved in this, so a number of cars just had nowhere to go, but a few got on the brakes early enough that they were able to get past this incident. Trippi has big left front damage. We also know from downstairs that Michael Frisch has severe damage to his 58 as he tries to limp back to his pit box. And right here you see it. Sale, you don't get a 4 wide call unless you have a spotter in the session with you, a human spotter in the session with you. But the spotter in the iRacing service does not give you a 4 wide call. There's a decent chance that Sale either did not get a call or just assumed that he would have a lane to go back down there too. And there it was, complete carnage out back.
Yeah, and it's an awkward spot too, Dawson. We obviously talk about everybody's got a different sim setup. Some guys have triple monitors, some guys have 1 monitor, but one thing they're all doing this late in the race is you're so laser focused on the guy that you're pushing that for Triscaro there, they kind of had an opportunity, both him and the 22, to try to jump up and fill that hole to where they would have gotten back down to 3 wide and it wouldn't have gotten awkward as they went into turn 3, but it doesn't work out, and unfortunately, that's part of the nature of the beast here at Daytona sometimes as you get down to the end of things. But This is going to put us now in our green-white checkered attempt. We only have one at it, and we will, of course, remind you of the rules of how the green-white checkered works here in just a moment. Before we do that, I want to go back up front. Ethan Eckert currently leading this race, and I'm telling you, I think him and Jeff Merck are content to work together at least until they're coming to the checkered flag. Those two obviously veterans of the money racing side, and I think they know how to get it done here at Daytona. We'll see if they can hold on, though, here for the rest of the night. Jackson Anderson, Cole Larson, going to be restarting 3rd and 4th. Michael Tucker, Francisco Villarreal, Justin Champagne, Joshua Sutherland. And one of the big storylines, Dawson, that we didn't talk much about this heat is how lucky it was for Cole and JD Larson. That's a father and son duo to get put together in the same heat. If they could somehow find a way to get connected, I think those two would be a dangerous duo, get back to the front. The problem is that JD Larson currently back in 21st. He's going to have a long road here to try to get back with inside the transfer spots in just 2 laps of racing. So real quick reminder on the green-white checkered rules here at PGR. We only have 1 attempt, and the caution will not be thrown. So we're going to run 2 laps of green flag racing. If they wreck, we're still going to continue to race it out. But of course, there will be official review and faults deemed for anybody that does cause a wreck. So obviously, everybody's got that in the back of their mind. But Dawson, we've seen how it's ended much of the last couple of days. Jeff Merck, though, looking pretty focused here on the onboard cam. I think he's ready to go for this final restart.
Jeff Merck is a guy who's made a lot of starts on Super Speedway and otherwise, a veteran in every sense of the word on the iRacing service, and he runs second here. He's been in this spot a million times. He knows exactly what he has to do, not only to finish inside the transfer spots, but to go win this race. Jeff Merck is a winner in multiple promotions over his decorated Super Speedway racing career, would love nothing more than a $60 bonus and to be the first one out of this 3rd night of racing to advance to the pole shootout on Friday. So Merck is definitely somebody that I had my eye on coming in, someone again with enough experience. It's been a key word for us this week to get himself into victory lane, if not in a transfer position. And he's got some familiar faces around him. I know you mentioned Eckert, Anderson, Larson, Villarreal, Champagne, Triscaro. There's a ton of guys that know each other, if not from last year's PGR 500, but from racing with each other every single week. There's a lot of familiar faces in this one to where you can turn to the guy behind you, say Triscaro and McCullough, or Triscaro and Merck, or even, Triscaro and Larson, and say, hey, we can work together. Let's both go up there and get in this thing.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be a big opportunity here for some of the guys that are used to being in this position. But again, knowing how it's ended the last couple of nights, I would say nobody's safe here, and we'll have to keep a close eye on some of those final transfer positions right around the top 10. Michael Triscaro right in the thick of that last wreck, but he managed to dodge through it. He was kind of near the start of it, and so he'll restart here from the 9th spot. But as the pace lights are off, we're getting ready to see one more restart here in heat race number 6. It's going to be Ethan Eckert and Jeff Merck leading us back to green. And if you're just tuning in, you picked a great time to do it. Heat race number 6 getting ready to be decided as the pace car will pull off. Here comes the field back into the Simrat Market restart zone. Green flag is back in the air. 2 laps to go at Daytona.
It all comes down to this. No more cautions in this heat race. We will race it out right here. Best start is on the bottom as cars start to bail down. Eckert actually is going to do the opposite. He'll go bottom to middle in front of Jeff Merck and leave Anderson on the bottom with Michael Tucker as the pusher. Eckert up to block Merck. Here comes the outside. Merck will be the first to get there. Larson pushes him. Francisco Villarreal, the first time we've seen him up at the front. In that 4th spot, the blue and white Ford Mustang, 4th on the outside. Sutherland is behind him. Then it's Gallimore, who's made an incredible recovery tonight as they work back down to 3.
And looking away towards the back, a couple of guys already trying to get the 3rd lane working, and it's going to be Craighead and Trippy. They've got a big run. They're going to pull up to close to the top 15. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, still 2x2, and as they rocket off of turn 4, this is going to be coming to the white flag, and it is going to be just 1 lap to go here, presented by Bender's Bar and Grill. Who's going to win Heat 6 at Daytona?
Ethan Eckert is hoping it's him. He's done all the right things here in heat race number 6. Can he make it 2.5 more miles? Jeff Merck, loyal to him so far on the bumper. Outback Trippy. They're still trying to make that 3rd lane work. It's just not going. Look at the tandem on the bottom. Trouble out back. Elliott, multiple cars around outside the transfer positions. Jackson Anderson draws even as the field works back into 3. It's going to be a drag race for the win.
Oh man, and if you're Ethan Eckert here, what do you want to do? Block or play it safe? He's got the lead for the moment. Jeff Merck continues to push. Will Cole Larson have another shot? They're going to wreck again towards the back. It's going to make it a mess for the transfer spots. But final time off of turn 4. Eckert versus Merck. Does the 60 make the move? Not yet. He's going to stay in line all the way back to the line. Ethan Eckert wins Heat 6 at Daytona.
And again, a crash in the transfer positions is going to throw some things into uncertainty as to who is in and who is out. For Ethan Eckert, it's about as clinical as it gets at the front of the field to go to victory lane in this heat race, but out back crashing towards the tri-oval, and some incidents that we'll have to go back and take a look and see who's in and who's out.
Yeah, it's going to be a very big mix-up once again, Dawson. You just feel like at a certain point, these guys, you got to take care of each other, and that's another situation where most of the guys that were left were in, and instead they all get themselves wrecked, and it's going to cost a few drivers a chance to move on to the next step in the journey to the PGR 500. But for Ethan Eckert, it has got to be all smiles right now. We talked at the tip of the broadcast about him being the pole sitter last year. Well, guess what? He's going to have a shot to fight for the pole once again. He will advance straight through to the duels and the pole shootout on Friday night. And he brings it through the tri-oval. We're going to see potentially a little celebration, a little smoke here from the number 12 car as Eckert continues to celebrate. Dawson, it was a great run from him, and I think Merck was probably one of the smartest guys we've seen all week, with being pretty content to run second there coming to the line.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that just comes down to experience on one hand, but also just the thought coming off turn 4 of knowing, yes, I could hook a left out of line and try to win the race and try to get a little bit of extra money in a spot in the pole shootout, or I could keep my car straight, focus on not getting involved in a crash, and just live to see another day. Live to see Saturday. He's going to race in the duels because of it, and that almost to me is a bigger deal than trying to hang a left and make the bonsai move for the win. You guarantee yourself another opportunity, and a good one at that, to advance to the PGR 500. And tell you what, Ethan Eckert, I believe, has beached this race car, and much like a couple of the celebrations last night, this may be all the smoke we get on the apron.
Yeah, it certainly is. We're going to take a look at your unofficial results here for heat race number 6. Again, Ethan Eckert is your heat winner. Great start to the week for him. Jeff Merck not going to need his provisional, and that'll be interesting to see who he decides to give it to. With him finishing second here tonight, he will advance straight through to the duels and will also have a shot in Friday night's pole shootout. Cole Larson, great run all night for him. He will advance through. It's going to be Joshua McCullough from McCullough Motorsports. He will advance through and have a shot at the next round with his dad, Ken McCullough Jr., as Michael Tucker finishes back in the 5th spot. He will be the last man transferring straight through into the duels after tonight. Michael Triscaro, after a heartbreak start last year, is going to get an opportunity to move on to the LCQs. He finishes 6th here tonight. Paul Gallimore was towards the back there late, but finds his way to the front at the end as he rounds out the top 7. Justin Champagne takes home 8th. Jordan Stencil 9th, and the last man who is going to make it on to the next round in the journey to the PGR 500 is Cameron Craighead, rounding out the top 10.
First man out tonight will be Josh Sutherland in car number 62. Unfortunately, the same can be said for Justin Tutunchin in 12th. A tough break for one of the PGR Crown Jewel veterans. Jeremy Osborne goes 13th tonight. J.D. Larson almost made it in. Unfortunately, his run will end here as well. So too for Justin Byers in the 15th spot. Landon Rainey goes 16th. Nathaniel Pollard in 17th. George Jewell in 18th. Quite possibly the toughest break at the front. In the crash at the end, Jackson Anderson goes from in to out as he'll go 19th. Francisco Villarreal, he's eliminated as well in 20th.
And if you're keeping a tab of some of the big names that didn't make it, we've seen a lot over the last couple of days, and you're going to hear me say a couple more here as we read out the rest of the field. Benjamin Elliott got involved in an incident early. He finishes 21st tonight. Anthony Trippi caught up in a wreck there in the last 2 laps. He'll take 22nd. Austin Sale and Ricky Stewart finished 23rd and 24th. Sean Futrell back in 25th. And Michael Fritsch, again, you talked about him, Dawson, one of the names that we expected to advance through, will not, as he takes home 26th. Cody Rogers back in 27th. Richard Wolsifer back in 28th. Josh Nelms 29th. And James Waring rounding out the top 30. And to make a note, the 29th and 30th place drivers did not actually start this race. All right, we're going to go back here and start to dissect all the chaos there that took place over the course of the last lap. We had a few different incidents, and coming to the line, you saw Merck and Cole Larson there with some contact, but they were already at a point where it didn't matter. It's back here about 5, 6, 7 rows deep. We're going to see a little bit of contact start as they're coming down to the tri-oval, Dawson, and that's really what did it. But coming to the white flag, everything looked good, and it wasn't until we got towards about turn 2 where it felt like a lot of the chaos really started to break out.
Well, they crashed back around Benjamin Elliott. That was outside the transfer positions. You're actually going to see the one car towards the right side of your screen. They will start to crash over here in turn 2. There he goes around, and there's a couple of other cars that pile in as well that end up outside the spots. Austin Sale is one of them, I believe, in that all yellow car. But then up front is where you're going to want to watch Jackson Anderson. I mean, he's leading the bottom lane going into turn 3. He's well inside at least the top 10, if not a top 5 position. He's pretty well safe. And then coming off turn 4, naturally the scramble begins. Michael Tucker way out of line. He tries to almost split between Villarreal and Anderson and plays a little bit of pinball and ends up in the right rear of Jackson Anderson. I'll tell you what, it's going to be very interesting to me see if there's any call there on Michael Tucker for that last lap incident. Villarreal, Sutherland, and Anderson all end up out. You see Champagne, he gets turned by Trisquero as Trisquero turns left to avoid the initial contact. I think we're all safe there. Both Champagne and Trisquero remain in the event. I'll tell you this, and outside of the guys that were in the crash, watch the 11 of Paul Gallimore, and right on cue, we're going to go on board with him. I mean, this is one of the drives of the week so far to avoid this crash and make his way to the event. How about that? For car number 11, the wreck starts in front of him. He's going to take a left turn. Look how close this is from being in to out. You see Champagne start to spin. Gallimore manages to get away, gets back up, and finishes 7th. Heck of a drive for car number 11.
Yeah, splits the middle and the C's part for him. I agree. Heck of a job there for the number 11. And Dawson, when we were looking back the replay, if you actually count, it was exactly 10 cars in that lead pack coming off of turn 4. Everybody was going to make it through to at least some sort of transfer position. Now, I know a lot of guys obviously fighting to try to advance straight through to the duels to get yourself that extra step closer. But, man, it just makes you wonder. It's been the theme all week with you got to take care of each other to have a shot at the end. But here tonight, it was chaos that broke out towards the end of it. And as we'll start to slowly shift now, the mindset towards heat race number 7, which is coming up here in just about 10 to 15 minutes. Want to make sure that we do, of course, again, thank all of the sponsors on board here tonight. And, of course, got to give a big shout out to our heat race number 6 sponsor, and that was Smooth Rider Smoothies. And, of course, we did see Michael Trisquero able to advance through. We'll have a lot more coverage coming up. Dawson, we saw a lot of crazy things there towards the end, but real quickly before we wrap it up, what's the biggest takeaway you think we're going to see here in the next heat?
A lot more chaos. I'll tell you what, last night I think the word was attrition. Tonight the word has been chaos, but on a more clean level, if that makes any sense, to where the racing was a lot more civilized towards the front of the field here late in the race, especially that big 15-lap run that we had was some of the craziest racing, but these guys managed to keep it out of the wall and keep it off the other cars and put together a really exciting 15 to 20 lap period of racing. So I think chaos is the word we continue to use, but a little less attrition tonight, which is interesting to me as we get ready to head into Heat 7. And I'll tell you what, Austin, before we leave, why not get a word with the race winner? I see him waiting down there in the waiting room, Ethan Ecker.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ethan, this is Austin and Dawson up in the booth. You got a copy? We'll go ahead and slide him up. We got to make sure we get him up in here. Ethan, this is Austin and Dawson up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, how you doing?
Well, man, you win heat race number 6, and we talked about at the tip of the broadcast, of course, you were the pole sitter for the PGR 500 last year. You're going to have another shot at it this year, but, man, you look like you were pretty comfortable out there. Was the plan to work with Merck for those last couple of laps?
Yeah, I was working with Merck, Trisquero, Josh McCall, and Cameron Craighead. We all pretty much got in. Craighead would have gotten in, but he caused a wreck on the last lap. So, overall, goal was to try to get everybody in. That's what we did. Me, Merck, and Josh are all in the duels. Mike's first car in the LCQ. So, overall, I think we worked good as a team. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't have been up there if it wasn't for Merck there at the end. That's pretty much all I have to say about that.
Well, we talk about how good you are at single car qualifying, but now you're going to have to go out and actually race if you want to defend your pole sitting position in last year's PGR 500. How do you feel about the pole shootout, and how do you go get prepared for the next step coming up this weekend?
Well, hold on, let me go check who's in it real quick. I think one of my teammates is in there at least. Miles won, right? And I think Wyatt might be in it. I'm not sure, but yeah, goal will be to work with my teammates up in that race. I know Miles is definitely in there. Wyatt might be. I'm not sure 100%, but me and Miles work pretty good together. Me and Wyatt work pretty good together. I mean, it's just another race, but there ain't really anything on the line for it, so I get to go out there and do it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Ethan, we won't hold you for too long here, so before we let you head out to go celebrate your first victory so far this week, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, big shout out to the guys I was working with, Mike, Merck, Josh McCullough, and Craighead. Shout out to you guys for broadcasting. Shout out to Mike and Baker for putting this event on. It's biggest event of the year. Baker for being the race control. All the 336 entries that are in it. And yeah, it's not possible without all them. So yeah.
And Ethan, we appreciate you talking to us again. Congrats on the Heat win, and we will see you on Friday in the pole shootout.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that's just about going to wrap up our coverage here for Heat Race number 6. Still a lot of action to come here tonight. We've got Heats 7 and 8 coming up just in a few minutes. We are going to take a quick break as we'll start the transition. But again, we've got a lot more on the other side. For myself, Austin Green, alongside my partner, Dawson Wise, we have had a great start to the night so far. Dawson, I know you're going to be joining us again later. And we're also going to be bringing in pit reporter Tyler Vickery here for the next heat, and our producer DJ Lyon, who will have continuing coverage here with us all night long. We're going to take a quick break. We'll see you on the other side. Don't go anywhere.
When you're looking for a setup and a community that stands behind it. Team Watson Racing Setups. Serious setups. For drivers who are done guessing.
6 heats down, 6 more to go on the road to the PGR 500 as we welcome you back in here to virtual Daytona International Speedway for what has already been an exciting night so far. The trend continues. Big names that have not made it in, underdogs that continue to impress everybody transferring through, and we have got 2 more heats of action to see who is going to advance to the next round in the PGR 500. And we thank everybody so much for tuning back in. As always, we want to make sure we give a big thank you to all of our sponsors here tonight and throughout the week. But for heat race number 7, we have got another sponsor spotlight for you here tonight, as the action for heat race 7 going to be brought to you by Brown Butter Productions. Smooth, rich, and always spreading flavor wherever it goes, from content to production to pure creative heat. Brown Butter keeps everything slick, professional, and unforgettable. And we give a big thank you to Trevor Oswanoff and to Evan Karlbahn for that heat sponsor. We want to welcome you back into the booth. I'm Austin Green alongside my partner here tonight, Justin Prince, joining us, and pit reporter Tyler Vickery will be joining us for updates throughout this heat as well. And of course, our amazing producer DJ Lyons continuing to provide the great product and all the hard work behind the scenes. Well, Justin, here we are. You got a chance to watch heat race number 6. What'd you like? What'd you see? And what do you expect for this one?
Well, what I liked was some of the drivers and their ability to cut with the lanes and be able to make the momentum work on the high side. What I didn't like was some of the door banging we've seen, obviously, for the race lead, and some of the uber aggression in the first place. Expecting a lot of these drivers around the 31 degrees of banking to keep up some of that aggression now. But in this heat in particular, the big thing I've noticed here is there are a lot of drivers that are some of the regulars in PGR competition, and some of those that are looking to break through here tonight for their own splash. Not too many major star power names. This is the type of race, Heat 6, where it's fairly balanced with the I ratings and with the competition level potentially, Austin. And I'm keeping an eye to see what a lot of these drivers do as we come up to the halfway point of the heats.
Yeah, and some of the most balanced heats can be the most exciting to watch. You mentioned 6 more heats to go, and then as we get to Friday and then into the weekend, that's when we'll see the pole shootout, 10 o'clock on Friday night. Not going to want to miss that. We've got 2 LCQs to kick off the afternoon on Saturday, and then the duels will be into the afternoon as we transition into the evening on Saturday. And then, of course, the big event that everybody is hoping to make it to is the PGR 500, which will kick off noon on Super Bowl Sunday. Well, we are still in kind of the later phases of qualifying here for heat race number 7, but looking at the race info, very similar to what we've seen all week. Of course, each heat 30 laps at 100% fuel, so no green flag pit stops expected. We are going to have that one attempt at a green-white checkered with one fast repair if you were to need it. And Justin, one thing I thought was interesting, and you heard Dawson actually mention this in the last one, that we have seen a green-white checkered attempt on every single heat race we have had so far. So chaos at the end continues to be the thing that shuffles up who makes it and who doesn't.
And that sort of chaos leads to a lot of unpredictability. And obviously, when it comes to a race like this and an event like this, urgency level is going to be high the closer you get to the end. And for a lot of drivers, knowing you have to get top 10 to be able to even have your chances, the event continuing for you, will provide a lot of nerve-wracking moments. And as a result, we're seeing a lot of drivers making some bold moves. So quite simply, I think that's leading to what we've seen chaotically, where a lot of drivers want to get up to the front very quickly, and you normally will see those stack-ups as drivers try and work their way through said chaos.
And I also think some of the aggression at the end that we talked about is partially due to guys know that they can transfer through, making it into the top 10, but you know how much more it would mean if you could do just a little bit better, finish top 5, and advance straight through to the duels. And for Eckert and Merck in Heat Race 6, go even a step further, finish top 2, and advance not only to the duels, but also to the pole shootout on Friday. I know a lot of people looking forward to that event. And obviously, you mentioned not as many big names in this one, Justin, but you do look to a couple of guys who are super speedway aces, Colin Keister, John Ellis, and then some of the PGR names, Nathan Harper, Jackson Byes. Going to be fun to watch, and I'm curious to see if we've got any teammates in this one.
Yeah, I think teamwork is going to make the dream work. I know I say that phrase a lot, but it's kind of the same emphasis here, especially for a lot of those that are going to have spotters here. There are some groups, meanwhile, that I'm looking towards that are gathered amongst those here in PGR side of Discords with teams that are at least 7, 8, 9, 10 drivers deep. When you have 10 different drivers, That's a lot of ears that you have to be able to, and a lot of voices that you're going to have chaos-wise. But it's about harnessing that chaos to be able to unite as one unit, to work in a line and get to the point. Tonight, you better be able to work together to get to the point. If you do have your teammates, we're going to see how they get sorted, though, in a moment.
It's going to be an exciting one as we now start to turn our attention down trackside. The field is getting gridded up, and we're getting ready to go here tonight for heat race number 7 at Daytona. The man who is likely going to start on the pole here once we get the official qualifying results in is going to be one of the PGR regulars. But I'll tell you what, beautiful sight. And for all these guys, this is potentially the last chance. I mean, we see a lot of PGR names, but even the guys that didn't have a good qualifying effort in this one, everybody has been able to get to the front at some point. There's been a lot of shuffling through the field, so we'll have to see how it pans out here in 30 laps for heat race number 7. All right, the man who's going to start on the pole here officially for heat race 7 is going to be Nathan Harper. Puts down a 50.1 to get himself that front row starting position. Jackson Byes will roll off in the 33. To his outside in second, it's going to be John Ellis Jr. and one of the Coke Series drivers, Colin Keister, back in row number 2. Dominic Wright will roll out in the top 5, and it's going to be Michael Sturgill rounding out row number 3. Back in 7th position here tonight, it's going to be one of the longest standing money racing promoters, Jimmy Crow, and also one of the super speedway aces, Michael Barksdale, in the 00 to his outside in 8th. Keith Prince back in 9th, and it's going to be Maxwell Caldwell rounding out the top 10.
11th spot today goes the way of Matt Hayden. His 5 machine starts right on next with the tie to Garrett Jenkins in the top 12. Then it's going to be Barrett Polhemus starting 13th. Huge drives a Chevy tonight as EPI cards in a Ford. Then it is Bryson Tomlinson, who will drive a Chevy from 14th. Axel Smith has one of the biggest alliances to work with tonight. That includes drivers like Cole Fitzpatrick. Keep an eye on him later. He'll start 15th. Justin Johnson, one of the regulars when it comes to PGR racing, in 16th. Then it's Jason Redgecock in the 17th spot. Anthony Marino rounds out your top 18 in the Graham Crackers Racing Toyota. Then it's Chris Schubert, who will start in 19th. Cole Fitzpatrick and one of the Precision Speed Solutions cars rounds out your top 20.
Some of the underdogs coming into tonight include Josh Nelms and Chris Taylor, who are going to roll off from row number 11. It's going to be Ryan Newman, and no, not the real-life Ryan Newman, but we've seen him at plenty of these events before. He will start 23rd, and it's going to be Ryan Derrick to his outside in 24th. And the last few drivers in the field here for Heat Race 7, Buster Malcolm in 25th, Austin Mays in 26th, and Joseph Allen back in 27th. But we'll now get ready to get rolling here as the field now on the parade lap. Drivers getting a final check of the tires, and 30 laps for the heat. Justin, we talk about it doesn't feel like a long time here at Daytona, but for a lot of these guys, they have been able to shuffle their way back to the front of the field, but we've seen that it only takes one bad 3-wide move to get yourself shuffled right back to the back of the field.
And a lot of people, when it comes to the PGR 500 its qualifiers so far, have made it clear they're willing to meet bold to go 3 wide. And some of these drivers have done a really good job side drafting, pulling drivers back to jump in the line. As we work through this racetrack tonight, watch for some of your top competitors who are very comfortable with that line to keep on doing that. But up at the front of the field, it's going to be the question. Will both lines stay pretty even to start like we've seen a majority of the weekend, or do we see one lane get better grouped together? It really depends on what these drivers depend on doing. Axel Smith, by the way, just got an EOL penalty.
Oh man, that's a very interesting note. We'll have to go see later if we can get an update from our pit reporter on what exactly happened there for Axel Smith. Either way, Nathan Harper, who just recently signed a contract with the Jack Shack, will be starting on the front row alongside Jackson Byes in the Subway Toyota Camry pace car, ready to make the left turn for the first time tonight in the restart zone, proudly sponsored by Simrat Market Design. Here we go as the field now going to roll into the Simrat Market restart zone. Green flag is in the air. We are underway in Heat 7 at Daytona.
Out of turn 2, they rumble as the outside line starts. Byes working well with the push behind from Colin Keister. Keister moves up a slight half lane, but both lanes steep even at about 190 miles an hour. gaining speed as they work their way to 3 and 4, 2 by 2 as several drivers stagger out of the back, but it's still near even coming off of 4.
Nathan Harper going to poke a nose back out in front. It's going to be a drag race here for who is going to lead lap 1. 2 by 2 though, they continue back to the field. One car looking 3 wide. I think that's the 38 machine of Bryson Tomlinson. He's going to get split out as he'll fade towards the back, but a lot of aggression continues towards the front of the field. Big time push. Colin Keister showing his true colors right now. He knows how to win here, and he is trying to do it here tonight. Jackson Buys still holding on to that tandem, but they stay 2 by 2. Here comes the outside line trying to fight back, but no momentum down the super stretch.
Still nothing doing for the now outside line. Sturgill doing a good job to be able to work with Barksdale in the battle of the Chevys in those new bodies for the 2026 season. Buys continuing to just hug the bottom of the racetrack, depending on staying calm to the O-line, but Keister wants to lead. He nearly got turned around with the 33. Keister to the point.
And oh man, a couple of close calls here early. Keister though now well in control as they climb the banking into turn number 1. By the way, you saw the weather here at the start of the race. Track temp is still just around 100 degrees, so grip not a huge issue for these guys, but we have seen this TWRS custom setup be so racy all week long. We've seen it here so far tonight in heat race number 6, and heat race 7 has been off to a great start as well. Looks like the third lane tempted to try to get going again now. It's going to be the 38, Tomlinson, who jumps back to the high side. It didn't work for him earlier, but this time he's got a tandem buddy. That's the 27 of Joseph Allen. They're trying to get something going, but nothing doing yet. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, how about 3 cars getting clear on the high side? Keister still leads at Daytona.
Bit of a scrape to the outside wall for Joseph Allen on that third line. They were getting so high up, but you know what they say when it comes to that third line. The further back you are, the harder it is to move unless you get a perfect tandem. Those drivers are struggling to get themselves into the top 10 with how much the space is getting squeezed up by those in the middle. There's a look for the onboard, in fact, with the purple machine. Tomlinson, 196 miles an hour, still trying to maintain the high line, but it's almost too high for Allen. Allen keeps having to overcorrect behind him to avoid wall contact.
Yeah, and Rashcock has joined in on the fight, but he doesn't like what he's seeing. He's going to jump back down to the middle, and as the 71 bails, you can tell that third lane now going to fall back apart. Up front, though, these guys have actually been off to a very calm start. Maybe going to change now. Almost 3 wide right there for the 60. Looked like Garrett Jenkins gave it a quick thought, but he's going to stay in line for now. And how about Justin Johnson, one of the big-time sponsors of this week's event? He's got the Dad Bod Studios paint scheme on board, and he has already been moving his way through the field. Currently sits up 9 positions from where he started this race at. About 4th in line on the high side as the inside charges back into turn 3.
Keister playing the lines, but a lot of these drivers are on the field starting to communicate. Sturgill just told drivers he's trying to let the car breathe on the outside line. Justin Johnson completely up on the wheel, the Lone Star Racing Machine, looking to get a 4-car tandem to work up on the high side. That 33 of Ice continuing to maintain the rhythm and try and control himself at the front of the field, but Johnson, we know, looking like he's a little nervous trying to maintain this speed.
Yeah, and that's the butterflies that we talk about all week, Justin. Obviously, everybody nervous here running in the pack, especially at the front. You know that it only takes 1 wreck to potentially end your night, but so far, so good for the number 60. As we look a little bit further towards the front of the field now, Buys is going to get another big surge momentum. Colin Keister, though, still leads the bottom, and early on, the trend has been both lanes have found success, at least the bottom and the middle. It's all about who is doing the pushing, and we see Colin Keister, he's been fantastic at it so far, but Michael Sturgill now trying to push the outside. Jackson in control, but he's got to be careful. Justin blocking early is one of the recipes for disaster here at Daytona. Big wiggle on the inside.
Big wiggle for the Jim Beaver eSports machine as well, but Buys still not able to clear with the Controller Bros Racing Machine. He has the option to send it down if he wants to, but the outside line continues to maintain momentum down the back straightaway a little bit quicker, and that's allowing a lot of these drivers to stay up top side. Keep in mind some of the other drivers amongst some of the Chargers. Cole Fitzpatrick 10, Marino up 10, Garrett Jenkins also up 7 positions amongst these cars. As look at this, one driver trying to start the third line. That's Axel Smith, who's trying to come from the back of the field.
And you talked about Axel being one of the guys who has a little bit more teammates here in this heat than most of the drivers that we're going to be talking about. And for Axel, some of the guys he could be looking to pair up with, I would look more so to some of the guys that are towards the back of the field right now, but nobody willing to help the 97. Grillo's pickle machine right now, so he's going to fade towards the back. Up front, though, it has been a drag race every single lap. The only difference now, Michael Barksdale, the lead pusher on the outside. That's another surge to the front. Barksdale's got an opportunity, and he's going to take it. The 00 goes to the bottom. He's going to try to lead into turn 3.
The pros, when it comes to racing super speedways, are showing why they're the pros. The Dega Pros machine leads the inside line, but a big block by Buys covers off the inside, gets bumped out of 4, able to hold on to it. Nathan Harper now leads the outside as a result as Sturgill continues to keep up the conveyor belt and maintain what's been a back and forth affair up at the front. No one really has been able to fully control this race in the race lead so far, but it's been clear. You have to be able to block the top and be able to maintain the bottom at points if you want to let the car breathe.
And look at the difference. You see the inside and the outside here, 2x2, but the biggest difference, you've got that inside. They were not quite connected. That allowed the outside to roll. Sturgill's going to have a big run as they go into turn 3, trying to clear off the nose of Harper, but he can't quite do it yet. The 60 of Jenkins, though, will continue to push, and you notice further back, Justin Johnson starting to leave just a little bit of room. We have seen engines be an issue with guys blowing up early on. Justin, I just wonder if some of these guys are trying to be conservative. The pace has felt pretty controlled early here with a lot of 2x2 towards the front, and they'll continue that way with Nathan Harper jumping to the outside into turn 1.
Still working back and forth to the line so far as Keister now much still shuffling a third on the inside for reference sake, by the way, as we continue on down the back straight away. Still as they try and sort things out, Harper works his way ahead down the back. Does he take the inside line or trying to bring the 16 forward? Answer is neither. Elects to stay up top group as they work their way through 3 and 4 and try and keep things steady. Already a third of the way through the action. This is actually our calmest race yet, I have to say, Austin. No major bold moves, surprisingly.
Nothing yet, Justin, but it feels like the calm before the storm. At some point, the guys that are 11th on back, that are outside of the transfer position, they're going to have to get aggressive as we ride on board now with Barrett Paloma. Excuse me, I know I probably pronounced that last name wrong, but the 79 machine here looking stout so far. The problem now, he's up top, and he's got no help, so he's going to continue to fade to the back, and now he'll jump back down to the middle, and it looks like he is going to be staying with the lead pack here. Further up, though, everybody remains 2x2 on the outside now. You've got the 55 trying to lead the way. We talked about the job that Michael Sturgill has been doing so far. He's getting pushed by Garrett Jenkins, but it's all the inside right now.
Yeah, and that inside line seems to be a little bit more coordinated. It takes a lot of effort to be able to make the numbers work, and for some of those drivers outside, you see these big gaps building up in the back of the field. A lot of these drivers letting the car breathe, but also it's slowing things back up. You'll see with the 79 in particular on your screen in what is a tough effort so far for one of your EPI cars. Paul Himas still trying to get things worked back there, but the inside line still at the front is having to fight hard because that outside of the front of the field, Austin, is still coordinated compared to the drivers outside the transfer that are just trying to figure out where their move is going to be.
And Nathan Harper and Jackson Buys continue to trade blows. I know it looks like they're getting racy with each other, which they are, but to a degree, they're actually helping each other because every time the 4 clears down or the 33 gets clear and jumps up, they're continuing to cycle the lanes. Now it's going to shuffle up, though. Colin Keister's going to get an opportunity to go to the front in turn 1, and he will do just that. Jackson Buys, one of the best pushers in the series, now going to line his back bumper up. It's a Mustang and a Camry working together. He'll move to the high side, though, and makes it 2 Mustangs up top versus a Toyota and a Chevy on the bottom. Chaos early, but we have not seen any yellow flags, and we are going to go down to our pit reporter, Tyler Vickery, for our first update of the night. Tyler, what are you hearing?
Yeah, Austin, an interesting start, too, for Axel Smith, as originally during the pace lap, he had to go to the EOL for his wheel. Did not have any force feedback, so good recovery for him. Also, most of the drivers in the mid-pack have been mainly, like Kevin Prince and them, are all focusing on trying to just be calm, wait until closer to the end time and start making some moves.
And thank you, Tyler. Justin, I like that report. I'll tell you what, guys that are being calm, trying to learn the setup here, getting a feel for what you've got to work with late. Also, interesting note there for Axel Smith. I mean, Justin, we've been on these tracks before, and trying to race at a place like Daytona without force feedback, almost impossible when you've got this much aggression.
Yeah, that's my absolute concern as a driver, because when oh, hold on, we have trouble back straight away. Sturgill gets turned around, down the bottom of the racetrack, up the racing surface, goes the 00 Barksdale. No caution. We stay green as Sturgill gets rolling on the apron. Chaos abound on the back straightaway, and that breaks up some of the lines.
And the ticking time bomb finally expired. The problem here, though, it's not going to bring out the caution. We'll go back and take a replay here. You notice Barksdale was going to be doing the push here as they come off the corner, but these two actually get separated. Watch what happens here. Sturgill jumps to the high side down the backstretch, and then as Barksdale gets a run, I don't know if he's trying to go up the side draft or if this outside's just starting to fade down. Either way, there's a little bit of maybe net code between those two that eventually turns the 55 around. Justin, you talked about him spinning down to the inside. The one saving grace, he doesn't get any damage, doesn't collect anybody else. The problem is with no caution, he has now lost touch with the lead pack and is going to need one if he wants to get back in this race.
Same for Chris Taylor also, who lost the draft in the aftermath of that chaos. Those drops over the last 4 seconds. But this is a race in an event so far that's trended with cautions by this point. So there is a chance for them to come back. It's going to be very difficult to get to the pack afterwards, though. That's the main concern. At the outside, really getting gathered up. The top 4 cars on the outside line, bumper to bumper to bumper. Justin Johnson leading the inside, still yet to gain enough momentum. They are 4 or 5 miles an hour quicker top shelf.
26 cars all still hanging on to the lead pack, all racing at near 200 miles an hour. 15 laps to go. We are at that halfway point, but the intensity not picking up any more than what it's been so far since the start of the race. A couple guys towards the back have been trying to get this third lane going, but they haven't been able to get enough help to make it happen. I was looking all the way back towards Anthony Marino Jr., Ryan Derrick, some of these guys that have the opportunity but have not been able to take advantage just yet. A couple guys snaking around on the inside, but up front, still well in control. The 4 of Harper and the 33 of Buys. They have led the most laps combined so far here tonight of any 2 drivers. Now Colin Keister, though. You look back to the 15, throughout that shuffle, he's found himself outside of the top 5. It's John Ellis Jr., though, now up to second. He could be trying to jump up top here in a minute.
Yeah, right now the outside still the place to be able to hold on to the race lead, I think. The inside the safe way, but John Ellis Jr. so far kept himself a calm race. Started up towards the front, has now picked himself back to be able to make sure he maintains the top 10 with the way the rhythm works out. The top 3 on the outside elect to play the safe game, go to the bottom, and this could open up some new players. Garrett Jenkins, who's been up in the mix much of the way. He's also got Axel Smith trying to work his steering wheel and push out that outside. They are really bubbling, though. That 60 car is having a hard time holding the wheel mid-corner.
Yeah, Axel Smith trying to find a dancing partner, but clearly not the best combo right there. I will say, Axel Smith started 15th, now up tonight, so he has been on the move so far here tonight, and that has been a trend for a few guys inside the top 10. How about Justin Johnson up 10? Watch out, going to go 3 wide here towards the back. That got really tight. Everybody going to be able to hold on. It looked like it was the 38 of Tomlinson who split down to the bottom. He's able to hang on. The 17 still stuck out in the middle, and this is not what the back of the pack needs to do if they're trying to get to the front. Axel Smith, though, all of a sudden now finds himself up to 3rd on the outside, buys back down to the bottom, and that's going to give another opportunity to Jenkins to try to lead up top.
A lot of drivers communicating back and forth on the radio. Jackson Buys saying he was getting a little bit hot previously on the radio. Now they push again on the back straightaway. Jenkins nearly pushed off center. Buys blocks him off on the outside yet again. They continue to play hard defenses. They work at the Pied Piper. Well, we have a spinning hard field. Caution flag is out. Marino's involved. Jimmy Crow gets turned around. Several more slam on in, including Keith Price. They're still slamming into the turn. 4s were under yellow.
And the NASCAR Racing yellow flag is out here for the first time in heat race number 7, and you can see big damage here to the few of the guys involved in this. One of them, of course, being the 66. We're going to go back and get a look at this here. It all started as they were going into turn 3. Obviously, you saw it on kind of the right side of your screen. As they go down the backstretch here, you get an exact take on who started where, but it all starts right around the 3 and the 79. As they go into the corner here, Justin, a little bit of smoke out in front. Hard to tell. That was Chris Schubert, though, the onboard view that you're with right now. He sees it, trying to dodge it, but he gets collected in the second portion of it as the 3 was coming back down. And that was actually Keith Prince, by the way, the 3 car. That was a pretty big hit to the outside wall for the 66. First caution of the night, and a pretty big one at that. Collects multiple cars.
Yeah, and watch this when it comes to Price. Prince, I should say, pushed up the racetrack, opened up the middle line, and the 79 tried to dive through it. That caused the slam. Pure chaos. As, once again, Prince gets involved in a couple different times over, and they slam on in behind. So you can see that happening. That's the tough part about this. You leave a lane open, someone's going to try and push it. In this case, Prince did not want to get squeezed out and try to slam the door, but the door already had a foot in it.
Yeah, exactly. And Keith Prince looked like just trying to fill that hole, but the 79 of, obviously was already there, and that's kind of a tough spot in general. I think about, though, the 3 here. Once he starts to spin, it's just a bad dash. Everybody's trying to obviously find a way to dodge the incident. Jimmy Crow gets turned around. That's a tough break for him. The 38's involved, and there was a couple of really big hits to the outside safer barrier. The 17 actually got all 4 tires up off the ground, so we've got some destroyed race cars here that are going to have to go in and take that fast repair. Now, I should note, everybody does still have their fast repair since it is the first caution of the night, but overall, definitely not the way that a lot of these guys had it going here now that we're past the halfway point, Justin. And the only problem with the guys that we're laying back is with this caution, we're not going to have that many laps left to go once we do get back to green flag racing.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult to get from the back to the front, I think, with this pack, because it's been clear the third line hasn't been working so far in this one. A lot of drivers have been able to transition, but will we see a lot of these drivers push the envelope more? I think absolutely. It's going to be nerve-wracking, I think, for a lot of these drivers to advance. Of note, though, that's the caution that Sturgill and company needed here, Austin. They're going to be the ones in the forefront, I think, of pushing, because we know how quick Sturgill's 16 in sim has been tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, and he'll also obviously gain a few spots over the cars that were wrecked. So it was a tough break earlier, but it maybe works out to somewhat of a degree here. And yes, he is still going to have to make his way back to the field. Looks like Sturgill here unofficially going to be scored somewhere back just outside of the top 20. So yes, definitely going to have some work to do. But for Nathan Harper and Jackson Buys, I mean, this looks like a dress rehearsal for what they'd want to do at the end of the 500 on Sunday. These guys have been phenomenal so far. As you take a look there at Bryson Tomlinson, front nose of that race car is still destroyed. Looks like he chose not to use his fast repair. Very interesting decision right there. He's got to be careful that he doesn't cost himself a lap, or he may never have a chance at transferring in here tonight in Heat Race 7. Back at the front of the field, there's Harper and Buys. We're going to line up 1-2. The 94 here of Maxwell Caldwell. We saw him throughout the week in a couple recruitment races. Back a couple weeks, I should say. The 94 is looking pretty stout so far here tonight. Garrett Jenkins and John Ellis Jr. all up inside the top 5. Axel Smith, Colin Keister, Justin Johnson, Buster Malcolm, and Joey Allen round out the rest of the top 10. So if you're just joining us here this week, we've talked about the payouts, we've talked about the format, but the key thing that all these guys are fighting for in the heats, $60 to the heat winner. Top 2 advance straight to the duels and the pole shootout. 3rd through 5th advance straight through to the duels. 6th through 10th advance straight through to the LCQs. Everybody else goes home. And we have seen so many big names, Justin, that have been in coming off of turn 4, and all of a sudden they're avid by the time they get to the start-finish line. So I got to think that for Harper and Buys, they feel pretty comfortable, but for everybody else, I can only imagine what the thought process is knowing you're getting a late race restart now.
Yeah, I think for the drivers, again, at the back, it's about trying to force the third line, get something to work. But if you're at the front of the field, or at least the top 5, I think it's simple. Just keep it conservative in a way that gets you not involved in any chaotic wrecks. Because as we've seen several times this week, there's been wrecks at the front of the field that have completely scrambled up the top 10. And we've seen that come into play with last heat in particular, with some of the drivers, with some of the incidents at the very end, resorting out the field. So for a lot of competitors here, it's going to be critical to make sure you're smart on how you play this. Coming to 8 laps to go, you're not going to have a lot of runway to be able to recover from any trouble from here. And once again, a lot of the big names are already at the cusp of falling out of the top 10, are going to be pushing hard. It's going to be difficult, I think, for a lot of those main names to get to the front where they need to be unless they get some luck.
Certainly starting to run out of time here pretty quickly, but we're getting ready to go back green as We'll have to see how this all pans out. Talked about the fact that there was a lot of excitement here leading into these heats, and we've still got 3 more coming up tomorrow. We've got obviously another one here tonight, so make sure that you don't go anywhere. We'll have all the action covered live right here on PGR eSports. Well, the iRacing.com pace car will make the left turn, and we are going to have an attempt at our first restart of the night. Field rolling back into the Simrat Market restart zone. Green flag back in the air for Harper and Jackson Buys as they both get a great restart. They're going to be about dead even here as they cross the line. Now it's a battle of what line can get the help quicker, and it looks like right now it's going to be the outside. Jackson Buys briefly pokes the nose out in front, but the inside's going to start to fight back as they climb the banking into turn 1.
Working the way around the banking. Buys works the outside, tries to play the lanes. Jenkins elects to push. They work their way to 5th gear. Now Buys gets him and Jenkins both clear on the outside. Axel Smith comes in to assist as well. These drivers try to work like Swiss Army knives, be able to adapt and adjust to any situation. And for Buys, he continues to wait to see, does the inside charge? Yes, it does. Let's block that lane. Okay, does the outside charge? Let's block that lane when that comes up. Try to play all the lanes, coming to 7 to go.
And they're starting to get squirrely, Justin. You can tell the patience is starting to run thin amongst some of these guys that realize they're running out of time. Back around the final transfer spots. Now we're going to get a 3rd lane. Slowly but surely that's going to try to get going. It's all the way towards the back. Chris Schubert and then the 3 of Keith Prince also gave it a thought. They're going to duck back down in line. And this is the problem. If nobody wants to stay committed, the 3rd lane's never going to be able to form. But how about up front? We're going to pull 5, 6 cars clear in the middle line. Jackson Buys leads them all, but will Harper or the 94 of Caldwell make a move? Not yet. Everybody single file still through 3 and 4.
This feels like what you were talking about yesterday with Dawson about 2025 in terms of the momentum of the outside line being the line. We're starting to see that come into play as no one wants to be on the bottom. Keister nearly got turned around in front of Justin Johnson trying to cut to the inside. Now the inside gains momentum. That 3rd groove, by the way, it is starting to roll a bit. You have buried in that 79 machine trying to hold on that outer groove, but it's not making ground. Not too much side draft, and some of these drivers like Joseph Allen are holding them back. They are swaying hard down in the corners.
Yeah, you got to be smooth if you're going to push strong. Trouble, one's going to jump off the racetrack here down towards the inside wall. It's Dominic Wright. It's not going to draw a caution, and for the 43, that is going to end his chances if we don't get a caution. Now the caution flies. Did we have trouble up here in the pack? I don't see any. Yes, we got one spinning. And that is actually the 5 car of Matt Hayden. And the caution flag back out for the 2nd time here tonight. Presented by the NASCAR 360 Racing Network.
Bernard White just talked about the sway, Austin. The sway just happened to heart of the field. Michael Barksdale is your spark. As we take a look at your replay, watch the 00 here. He's one of the drivers that I've noticed that were starting to push tight into 3, and a lot of cars were struggling with this sway. Right here, pushes up at a Storgill, gets him loose a little bit, and then everyone else starts to stack up. You have Schubert make the contact originally from behind, collects everyone else, and that brings us under yellow for another late duel restart.
Yeah, this is going to get crazy, and for Matt Hayden, that wreck, nothing he could do. He's right on board here with Michael Barksdale. Talked about washing up the track. It doesn't take much when you're only running a couple of feet apart. Once that contact starts, again, those were a couple of big shots to the outside wall. You saw the 69 of Chris Taylor. Haven't got to shout his name out too much tonight, but he gets involved in that incident. Then a couple more that slide down through the inside grass. And I think some of the drivers that were involved in this are ones that still do have a faster pair, but this is going to send us to an even later race restart. That means that you are likely not going to have enough time to get back to the front. It's going to be borderline on whether or not this sends us into our one and only attempt at overtime or if it's green-white checkered. But here's the onboard view for Matt Hayden, and you'll notice he's on the bottom here. He's got no idea what's happening up top. Sees the 00 go high, and next thing he's going to see is the outside wall. And Justin, that's one of the worst feelings you could have at Daytona. Real life because it hurts, but in the sim because you know there's no chance of saving that race car, and big damage this late, so tough to recover from.
At this point, if you're basically in the 20s, I think your chances are done unless there's a big stack up. If you're in the teens, you better be on the outside line because you're not going to get anywhere if you're starting the inside. So as these drivers in the back of the field get the damage repair dealt with and Barksdale gets the EOL penalty from that situation, I think a lot of people's beds are made here. The one driver I'm surprised that was able to get through all that chaos and through that pack that might be hoping for a lot to happen, by the way, Anthony Marino Jr. was involved in the first caution, Austin. He is your bubble car in the 48-in sim. So the nerves are going to be high there, and Marino is going to have to figure out a way to block 2-3 lines while also being side by side, which is going to be very hard, obviously.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult here. We've seen how that's turned out before when you're trying to cover any sort of positions throughout the field. But for these top guys, Justin, it seems like we've said the same two names all night. Jackson Buys, Nathan Harper. They are once again going to restart on the front row. And I think this puts them in an even better position here, right? Because you think about with the engine temps and the track temp, these guys should have more than what they need to push here the entirety of these last 2 laps. So if those two can coordinate it right, I would say they're feeling pretty good about both of their chances at advancing to the pole shootout. But it's not that cut and dry because you've got a lot of hungry sharks here behind them that are all going to be trying to take away those top 2 spots. Maxwell Caldwell up 7 positions from where he started this race at. And looking at some of the other big movers throughout the field, Jason Rashcock, he has picked up 11 positions from where he started the race at. He is getting close now to the final transfer spots to the duels. Colin Keister, you know he's going to be aggressive. Justin Johnson in the number 10 machine. The question is, where does he go right here? And even back towards Axel Smith. And as you mentioned, Justin, Anthony Marino Jr., this is a tough spot because you think you're safe because you're technically in, but it's almost like you need to try to keep going to the front because it only takes one move to the outside, and all of a sudden you're on the outside looking in.
My thought is it takes one spinner in front of you, and you go from the top 10 to in the pit lane with the DNF at the final lap. So I think he's in a very dangerous spot, especially knowing that's where we're seeing a lot of these drivers going to be pushing 3 wide. This restart is going to be ever more chaotic here. We'll have to keep an eye on that. And I'm curious what some of the thoughts are for some of these drivers coming up here, because you're talking about a lot of situations we've seen here that we've talked about over the course of the race, and a lot of those storylines are about to converge for this advancement here into the top 10.
Certainly are, and it's going to be a 2-lap shootout. Before we get back to green flag racing, we've got another update from our pit reporter, Tyler Vickery. Tyler, what are you seeing down there?
Thanks, Austin. Yeah, Axel Smith, I was able to get it here from a spotter, Asher Little's spotting for him. Was able to get the force feedback back on the wheel in time before the start, so he's actually been able to run the entire race with this feedback. Also, an update with Michael Sturgill. He has also been doing really well at trying to stay in the pack after the spin. He's already had his full force plan now of just trying to be able to survive the wrecks and make it up to the top 10 to make it into LCQ at minimum.
Thank you for that update, Tyler. Yeah, Axel Smith, obviously a big break there, being able to fix that issue. And as we get ready to get back to green flag racing, do you want to give another shout out to our yellow flag sponsor, which is again powered by the NASRA 360 Racing Network. They've got a big event coming up themselves. The NASRA 6 Hours of Le Mans takes place on March 7th. 6 hours of strategy, teamwork, and endurance. You can catch all that action live on the NASRA 360 Racing Network. A lot of guys you're seeing here this week actually took part in the NASRA 500 not too long ago, so they had a little bit of preparation over there, but obviously a little bit of a different setup on the car that we have seen so far throughout these heats. Big thank you to Team Watson Racing Setups for their amazing, custom set for the PGR 500. Well, here we go. We're going to try this. Not going to be a green-white checkered. It's going to be a natural 2-lap shootout here at Daytona. Green flag back in the air. It's a great restart for the 33 of Jackson Buys. He gets the big jump on Harper. We've got gaps all the way back through the top 10, and this is going to get really interesting as the runs start to build into turn 1.
They work their way through as Buys works the outside line. Harper to the bumper once again. A lot of those names we keep on mentioning. The outside is got all the momentum. The 94 of Caldwell going backwards and quick. To the back straight away we go. Rutschkock pushes now, tries to get a 4-car tandem, 5-car tandem. All 5 of the lead cars on their bumpers, trying to get going as the 16 nearly moved down. Jenkins elects to stay in line as they work their way to 3 and 4.
Oh, that was a big save too by Jason Rashcock. He got sideways, now they're gonna wreck. Big hit into the outside wall. One goes almost up into the catch fence. The big one strikes at Daytona with 3 laps to go, make it 2. And this takes out about the back half of the field. Austin Mays is in it, Colin Keister's in it. The 60, who we saw take a big hit, Garrett Jenkins is in it. And it's a mess here that's going to now send us into yet another green-white checkered. Let's go back and take a look at it here and see exactly where this chaos all starts. We talk about the aggression, the pushing and shoving late. Oh, the 60 just gets turned. It's going to be a little bit tougher to see here from this view. It's looking out back here, but right there you see the wreck start, and then the 48 of Marino gets lucky. He dodges it. Look at that hit, Justin. That was a massive, massive impact there for the 60 of Jenkins, but it looked like the 48 was going to shoot through the middle. Maybe a little bit of a late attempt at a block from the 60. It was tough to see, but either way, that was actually Keister who took the big hit into the outside wall.
Yeah, Keister, I think, nearly flipped over, and another contender is out of it. It's been the trend all day, but right here, he sees the opening. Problem is, that was not a full hole, first of all, to dive on through. Second there, it was the situation where Maria was trying to peel off to take that momentum to the middle line, and it absolutely cost him and several others there. Understand the decision to move this late in the race, but the question is, do you back off there and try and let the blend down or force it? He tried to force it, and we've seen the cause.
And it was also a tough break here for Buster Malcolm, as again, look at that impact for Colin Keister. That is a huge wreck. But then the secondary incident where you see the 71 starting to spin, that's Rajkok, the 102 of Buster Malcolm, gets turned up the track. So most of the guys that made it through the first one had to sit here and try to dodge a second one. Justin Johnson also got some contact. And then as the 48 comes down here, almost shoots the gap in between a couple of cars, but I believe that may have been potentially the 17 of Jimmy Crow. No, I think that was somebody else. But again, a big, big incident here that's going to send us into a green-white checkered. And more notably, this could potentially take out some of the cars here in this race. This was, again, a big, big incident here, Justin.
Yeah, here's a look from Cole Fitzpatrick in particular. There's the big checkup in the first place with the contact. And that first hit does crumple in the front nose that everyone stacks up in front. When you have a stack up like that, you're just hoping to get by as quick as possible. Fitzpatrick destroyed both fenders from that contact and is one of the many that just took the fast repair that they had left or got in manual damage repairs here. So it's going to absolutely be a spot where track position's everything, and this is exactly what I just talked about. You have to be able to anticipate the chaos, and the trend continues here. Every race has now had a green-white checkered.
Every race so far, this will obviously be another green-white checkered here. We've only got one. Quick reminder of the rules. 2 laps, both are going to be ran under green flag conditions. We will not throw the caution again, so that's something you have to keep in mind. But of course, if you are found at fault for an incident, then you will be penalized accordingly. So you can't be getting too crazy up here near the front, especially for the guys that are in and near transfer positions. But we're keeping a close eye right around the top 10. Michael Sturgill slowly making his way back up here. Justin, Ryan Derrick, Jimmy Crow. Again, I haven't got a chance to call out Jimmy a ton here tonight, but all he has done for the money racing community, it's great to see Jimmy out here and hoping that he's able to find a spot and advance through to the next round tonight. But he has got a little bit of work to do, as it looks like he will restart from the 11th position. Up front continues to be what we talked about all of Heat Race 7 so far. Buys and Harper, they have been the class of the field. And with Keister out of it now, that just leaves John Ellis Jr., Maxwell Caldwell, and Axel Smith as some of the guys who have been able to challenge. Interesting note here, Justin Johnson deeming to stay out on the racetrack here, Justin. What do you make of this? He's got some damage on the front nose. I got to think either, I don't think he got damage in that first incident. I got to think he's worried that if he goes in and gets it fixed, he just won't have enough time to get back to the front.
That's exactly the thought, I think, if you're Justin Johnson. Here's my theory, though. He's going to be a parachute. His hope, chaos. He hopes to block the lanes, hopes that pushes from behind keep him up here, because I've called action over the past weekend when it comes to Daytona. A driver did exactly this for the top 3. You know what happened? They fell behind. Then, because it was a clash race, some of the competitors behind them said, I'm just going to push you as far as possible into other cars because you're holding me up. Wouldn't be surprised to see everybody try and dart around Justin Johnson here with that front nose.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. You know, I will say, we talk about a lot of other 500 events that go on. One of the differences, Justin, is that some of those can end under caution even on green-white checkers. But with us not doing that here in PGR, there's no sort of saving grace of, maybe they'll wreck early. Maybe I just survive this big wreck and, we get a caution and I finish where I'm at. Now, I do see the mindset, obviously, of if you're Justin Johnson, you think to yourself, there's been so many big wrecks anyway that even if I do start to fade, maybe if I keep some track position, I make it through a wreck and I still finish in the top 10. It's going to be interesting to see. One good thing, though, here for Johnson is that he has that dual provisional to fall back onto by being one of the big sponsors here of the week. So this isn't going to be a make or break for his week, but obviously, yes, could have big implications here for the rest of the field. So we'll keep an eye on it here. Lights are off on the pace car, and we are getting ready to go green here one more time in heat race number 7. Field now going to get downshifted into second gear. Buys and Harper going to lead the field back into the Simrat Market restart zone. And for the final time in heat 7, green flag back in the air. 2 laps to decide it at Daytona.
Early jump by Buys as he gets the inside working with Ellis Jr. Axel Smith also to the gears on the bottom side. As expected, Johnson a bit of a parachute. Already 2 car lengths difference between him and the next car. To the outside goes Ellis and Buys. They block off Harper. They work their way through turn 2. Big cushion as Jimmy Crow and everybody else behind did not get going.
Yeah, we thought Justin Johnson was going to be the issue. He's up at the lead pack. For Jimmy Crow, though, he's got to catch on here pretty soon. Ryan Newman now starting to make his way back through the field. Meanwhile, up front, Joseph Allen's going to dive to the inside. He wants a shot at it, but it is all that top lane. Buys, Ellis, and Harper all working together as we're coming to the white flag.
Coming up this time coming up to the final time around as they work their way around the racetrack. White flag, brought to you by Bender's Bar and Grill as they work their way on through. So far, so solid for the top 6. They are comfortable, but everyone else tries to battle in a 1 and 2. Here comes Joseph Allen. He gets blocked off this time by the 79.
You got to be careful if you're Buys here. Watch out if Ellis or Harper are going to make a move. Bottom's got another charge. Here comes the 79. Barrett Paulhemus, we talked about him earlier in the race, but they are 3 wide. Further back as they're going to dive into turn 3 for the final time, and everybody is going to line up for one more push. Top 3 starting to scoot away from the rest of the field. This could be a 3-man show, but here comes the rest of the pack roaring in tight. Harper's going to go to the high side. Buys stays down low. They're wrecking big time out back. Buys leads them all back to the line. Jackson Buys wins heat race 7 at Daytona.
Able to play the lanes all race and worked out perfect for him. But absolute calamity. They are still wrecking down the front straightaway. Unofficially, Jenkins is on the bubble as the 10th place car as several cars got turned coming to the line, Austin.
And once again, Justin, what did we see? Chaos coming out of turn 4 down to the tri-oval, and it is going to eliminate guys that were in once again. I mean, the frustration has got to just continue to build. We're going to go back and get a replay of this from where it starts. Axel Smith was pushing Sturgill here, and they looked pretty clean. This was almost an interesting wreck. I think it's actually going to be Axel Smith who's going to get turned from out back as they're coming off the corner. Yes, it looks like that's exactly what happens, and then it's just on from there. And once everybody has to scramble to miss it, I look towards guys like Maxwell Caldwell, potentially Axel Smith as well. These are the guys that were in and weren't doing anything wrong, but they get caught up in that wreck, and Justin, they could very well be on the outside looking in now.
You know the wild thing about Garrett Jenkins, he was 22nd coming into the final lap of this run too. What did I say? Be prepared if people start wrecking, be prepared if the chaos strikes. You'll see Jenkins have to part the sea because there's the contact on the outside line. That turns around Sturgill, and everybody else has to cut right down, get squished down, makes a bit of contact, turns into a drag race for 10th. And as some of the cars actually have to cut through the grass, right there, you see the 5 loses all the momentum, sliding back up the track. That was the big difference in terms of being in and being out unofficially.
And remember, there's not going to be a penalty there for Jenkins because he is going down there to dodge the wreck. So that's completely fair game in this case, but it's just unbelievable to me how much calamity we've seen. It seems like in years past, and Justin, I know you've covered a lot of big events, so I'm curious what your take is on this, but it seems like guys up front take care of each other coming down to the end because they know they're in position and it's going to be hard to beat coming off a turn 4 to the line, but it seems like that is where we've seen just about every single wreck on the last lap so far here, not only tonight, but this week. And while Jackson Buys continues to celebrate, I got to think there's a lot of guys that are pretty frustrated with the way this one ended.
Especially with, say, those on the outside. I think with Axel Smith, he would have been inside the show potentially if he had a clean cut on the block. But also, as we look at these results, Austin, you have to be able to be smart in the late stages, and that's been challenged all weekend by the level of aggression.
It certainly has. One guy that was smart and it panned out for him, though, Jackson Buys. He is your Heat Race 7 winner here at Daytona. John Ellis Jr. takes home second. How about Barrett Polhemus? We talked about him early. Late, he's able to sneak into a podium spot. Nathan Harper, though, he will finish back in the 4th spot, and the last man advancing straight through to the duels is going to be Joseph Allen, one of the major underdogs coming in, but he is one of the veterans of money racing. Not too surprised in that aspect to see him advancing through to the duels on Saturday. Justin Johnson with Dadbod Studios. He'll have another shot in the LCQs, so he will not have to use his provisional, at least not yet, as he will be racing early on Saturday. Jason Rajcock, Michael Barksdale, Ryan Derrick, and Garrett Jenkins, the rest of the drivers inside the top 10 that will be advancing to the LCQs.
Then you also have Austin Mees, who will be in 11th spot, Hayden in 12th. Those are the first drivers out unofficially. To see how reviewers go. Malcolm and Smith, 13th and 14th. Murillo Jr. at one point was inside the top 10. And then Chaos Struck for one of our cautions. Maxwell Caldwell, Dominic Wright, Cole Fitzpatrick also looked pretty solid earlier. Michael Sturgill, he was inside the top 10 coming out of turn 4 yet again. Gets turned around. He's the last of the lead lap over Ryan M. Newman, should say.
And that's what we talked about too, Justin, with some of the guys that were in that are now out within just about a couple hundred yards. Jimmy Crow, man, tough break as he got caught up in one of the incidents and just couldn't quite recover since then. He finishes 21st. Bryson Tomlinson in 22nd. Chris Taylor 23rd. Josh Nelms in 24th. And if you've got a checklist of big names that continue to be eliminated here throughout these heats, add Colin Keister to it. He will not advance through to the next round. The 15 car finishes in 25th. Keith Prince 26th. And it's going to be Chris Schubert rounding out your 27 car field here in Heat 7. Well, before we go any further, we got to talk to the man in victory lane. Jackson Buys in the 33 finds himself a win here at Daytona. So as we bring him up, my partner Justin Prince stands by with him.
Well, Jackson, you played this race near perfectly. 19 laps, led most in the event. You get yourself to victory lane in this heat. Talk us through the strategy and the decision-making as you had a whole committee of spotters helping you.
Well, the strategy making was pretty obvious. Stay up front, keep my people around me up front. It wasn't looking good at the start of the race for us. We kind of were getting buried. And when I got the clear up opportunity, I took that, and there wasn't really any looking back on my end. I don't think I left the top 3 after that. And from that point, it was just pulling who I was working with me, and that being John Ellis and Harper and Maxwell Caldwell. Fortunately, Caldwell didn't make the race, but Harper and John did, and they're into the duels. And we tried to work with Axel, but we all kind of messed up and hung them.
Yeah. Well, either way, you tonight were able to play the lines as a Pied Piper here tonight. How would you describe that impact with the package, knowing you had teammates to coordinate with in the first place up front, but also were able to control both lines like that because no one was able to get a third line past you and your friends for much of the night?
Well, it was mainly keeping our temps cool and keeping it for whenever they did start to get the lanes rolling that we started to push away from those lanes. One thing I noticed in this race was the Toyota nose is locking really well with the Ford's rear end right now. So that was one thing me and Harper kind of abused for several laps and was working with was every time we would get together, we just push away from people. And the Ford's rear end isn't too bad with this one either.
In turn, what's the game plan for this weekend? Same game plan? Any adjustments you need to make?
Well, the people I worked with here aren't going to be the same people I work with come further into the weekend. Say I make the 500, but I may work with them again in the duel or the qualifier. So, I mean, personally, I know our team morale's down. We've had some of our bigger drivers on our team miss out on this event as of now, and we're still looking at getting a few more in, but with most of us missing and there being a new team on the rise, it's something that we've got to keep an eye out to beat.
Any shout you'd like to give after this one here today, Jackson?
I want to give a shout out to Spotter Max. Shout out to Ethan for helping us. Shout out to Axel Smith for trying to work with us, and sorry that we left him. Shout out to everyone who's pulling for me. Shout out to all my friends and family and everyone who supports me.
Well, Jackson, you played this race very well, to say the very least. Led the most laps, get the win. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, and before we start to turn our attention here to what will be heat race number 8, final heat of the night, couple of quick thoughts here to wrap things up. Jackson Buys is your Heat 7 winner. Justin, a lot of aggression in this one. It was calmer in the first half, but we saw chaos once again at the end of it.
Once again, aggression levels picked up, and the big storyline that's starting to really emerge over the course of this week so far, Austin, if you want to be able to advance, you better not be a headline name, it feels like. Because a lot of the names that especially are known outside of PGR circles, like a Michael Fritsch from the last race, several eNASCAR drivers, they are all amongst the drivers that are either going to have to hope for a bit of luck or a promoter's provisional, or better yet, are already outright, Austin. The big names keep on getting bumped, and that just shows the unpredictability with how wild these other races have been.
Yeah, it has been absolutely crazy, and if you've liked what you've seen so far, don't go anywhere, because we have got, Heat Race 8 coming up here in just a few minutes. Well, we'll start to wrap it up. Do want to, again, as always, give a big thank you to all the sponsors that come on board here, everybody that makes the PGR 500 happen, including our flagship sponsor, That Towing Company, CCR and the Flying Aces for their their associate title, and then NBG Motorsports. They are another associate, and Dadbod Studios with Justin Johnson, who we talked about, will be advancing through to the LCQs. And for the Heat sponsor here tonight for Heat Race 7, one more big shout out to Brown Butter Productions, and that is Trevor Osmanoff and Evan Carlbon, 2 drivers that we will see throughout this week. A half myself, Austin Green, alongside Justin Prince and our pit reporter Tyler Vickery. We'll be back with more action coming up here in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. Stick with us here at Daytona.
When you're looking for a setup and a community that stands behind it, Team Watson Racing Setups. Serious setups for drivers who are done guessing.
Welcome back to virtual Daytona International Speedway, where we are getting set here for the final heat race tonight in the journey to the PGR 500. It's been chaos so far, and only people can guess as to what we're going to expect here tonight, but we are excited to catch all the action. Just a few minutes left in qualifying, so we're going to get right down to business here tonight, and we appreciate everyone for tuning in. I'm Austin Green as we welcome you up here into the booth alongside my partner, Dawson Wise. Tyler Vickery going to be our pit reporter here tonight, and our amazing producer, DJ Lyon, will be covering all the hard work behind the scenes. Dawson, obviously a quick transition here from the last heat to the final heat here tonight, but we had a lot of action early on, but then similar chaos at the end to what we've seen pretty much all week.
Yeah, very much so, and not surprising to me. I think the first several heats kind of established the precedent for the rest of the week in terms of what to expect on that overtime finish, and it could be the cleanest race of the week. We saw it in both of the ones tonight, and we can have clean racing for 25, even 28 laps, but when we get into that overtime period, the desperation gets to a point where guys make moves that are a bit too far over the edge. They cause those crashes on the last lap. Another shuffle in the running order on the last lap of a heat race this week. It has been craziness, to say the least, and harping on what Justin Prince said to end Heat 7, some big names already have gone home on night 3.
Absolutely, and if you take a look at the schedule here, we are again already over the halfway point here for heats that have been ran so far this week. We'll round things out on Friday. That's when Heat 12 will take place. We're also going to run the pole shootout on Friday night, so if you are going to be hanging around, make sure you tune in for that one. Saturday, we kick off the LCQs. That is going to be the genuine last shot for a lot of drivers to make it through to the duels, which will take place Saturday afternoon into Saturday evening. And then, of course, the big event, which we are very excited for, is the PGR 500. That will take place Saturday with race coverage kicking off sometime right around midday. Race info here tonight. Very similar setup, 30 laps. That's what we've seen through all the heats, 100% fuel, one green-white checkered attempt, and that one fast pair in your back pocket, which we have seen a lot of drivers have to utilize so far. And before we do get down to the starting grid here tonight, do want to take a moment to thank, obviously, all of our sponsors, but we want to give a spotlight here to the sponsor for heat race number 8, and that is JW Paints. When it comes to turning heads on iRacing, James Waring delivers some of the cleanest and hottest custom paints that you will find in the service. And you'll see plenty of those paint schemes rolling off pit road in this year's PGR 500. If you want your car looking just as fast as it drives, find JW Paints in the PGR eSports Discord and get yours done today. Well, Dawson, starting to set the stage here for what's going to be an exciting heat race number 8. A lot of big names that we've seen so far here tonight. Colin Keister, though, one of them that got eliminated in the last one. Dylan Alt, going to be one of the pros that we see in this one. And I'm sure a lot of guys wondering if he'll be able to advance through his heat.
Yeah, Dylan Alt, a name I was looking forward to watching here in the PGR 500. One of his first PGR starts. Cannot recall off the top of my head if he has tried one of these crown jewels before, but certainly one of the guys that I want to watch alongside a lot of PGR eSports regulars that have found their way into this heat as well.
And with that, we're going to go ahead and get you down trackside here and get down to the starting grid here. Final heat of the night, and the pole sitter is going to be Coke Series driver Dylan Alt. Puts down a 50.146 to get his Chevy that front row starting position. How about Dalton Milam to his outside in second? Zach Davidson, another one of the Toyotas in the field, will roll off from third. And J.R. Miller, one of the PGR eSports drivers, will start from the outside of row number 2. It's going to be Andrew Voigt back in 5th with Blake Neer to his outside in 6th. Back in row number 4 is going to be another one of the PGR eSports drivers, Nash Brambilla. He'll have Michael Brown to his outside in 8th. Joey Beck, one of the drivers who came so close in the SummerSlam, didn't work out. He'll roll off from 9th here tonight in the number 77 car, and it's James Waring, sponsor of tonight's heat, rounding out the top 10.
Row 6, Larry McDonald will roll from position number 11 in car number 80. It'll be Matt Cherry alongside him in car number 54. Working back through the field, back to row number 7, it'll be Tanner Long in the 84 machine. And alongside him, Payson Lindsay. You'll remember a recruitment race a few weeks ago. Payson had a really good run in that 99. He's set to go for Heat 8 from 14th. Row 8 going to be Dustin Cowan in the 020. Alongside him, it's Derek Fulton making a PGR appearance tonight. He'll go from 16th. Row 9, Steve Bocock in car number 12 will go from the 17th position. It'll be TJ Moon, the 97, that will go from 18th. Rounding out the top 20, it's Sam Hurst in the 16 and Chris Waldron in car number 3.
Mark Rogers is going to have some work to do here tonight. He'll start from the 21st spot. It's going to be Caden Heiner to his outside in 22nd. How about Craig Schroeder rolling off 23rd? Harrison Santos, that's a new name to the PGR scene. He will roll off in 24th. Misael Flores rolls off 25th tonight. He'll have Jeffrey Goodpaster to his outside in 26th. And the final man here in the heat is Ken McCullough Jr., but we already saw him run earlier, so I believe that he will just be in as a spotter. And as the cars begin to roll here, Dawson, before we get down to business, do want to give a special shout out here from Larry McDonald. We talked about him running in the field here tonight, as he's got a special shout out here to his friend George Johnston out of Memphis, Michigan. And Larry wants to let you know, George, you are one of the best human beings that he has ever known. He's watching tonight while on hospice, and knowing that means more to Larry than anything that happens on the racetrack. And Larry says, this one's for you, George. And those are some incredibly heartfelt words from Larry. Our thoughts and prayers are with George and the Johnston family. And Dawson, I know we're not supposed to root for people up here in the booth, but it certainly would be pretty cool to see Larry be able to get a win for his friend George Johnston.
100%, and we've seen so many of these stories, along my years doing, doing this stuff, and it was obviously very heartfelt to read those words when we saw them earlier. Now to hear them again, hard not to root for car number 80 in Larry McDonald to make it through to Saturday and keep this journey going.
Absolutely. Well, the field now getting one final check of the tires, and it's been chaos so far. But Dawson, we did see a little bit more calmness, at least in the first half of last heat. So it's going to be very interesting to see if it pans out that way here tonight. And as the field works off of turn 4, a couple drivers to keep your eye on are right up on the front row, Dylan Alt and Dalton Milam, who will again start first and second. Chevy and a Toyota this time around. The Chevys have been dominant so far this week, but that could change right here, right now. The iRacing.com pace car going to pull off final heat of the night, and it's time to get it underway. Field rolls into the Simrat Market restart zone. Green flag in the air. Heat race 8 underway at Daytona.
Well, underway, but we got one car out at the back of the field, Austin, that has already started to struggle. That was the 027 of Misael Flores that got around. And as we get underway on lap 1, unfortunately, we're going to have to get right to the action as Flores goes around. Top lane rolled for a moment. The bottom is where the momentum is. That is Dylan Alt. And I wondered how aggressive he would be. We're going to find out right here off turn 2 how aggressive Alt is willing to be with the rest of the field. We're now going to stay tucked on the bottom side of the racetrack as Dalton Milam rolls to his outside. New colors for Milam. Remember, he started the SummerSlam 499 and last year's PGR 500. One of the most tenured PGR crown jewel drivers in the field. Rolls second on the outside.
Yeah, and when you got a driver that mostly only shows up to big events, it's because he knows how to win at these. Milam now with a big run to the outside. Trouble. One's going to spin down to the outside wall. It may have been the 23 of Nash Brambilla. No, it's Caden Heiner. Big hit to the inside wall for the 24. That race car is destroyed, but it's not going to draw the caution. It was only one car off the racing surface, so we will keep it green at the front of the field. Dylan Alt now has a little bit of a surge. He'll get out in front, and he's bringing the 19 of Zach Davidson with him. Nash Brambilla in the Chrome 23 machine, currently sitting back and forth as he tries to roll up to the back bumper of Andrew Voigt. Bottom rolls, but the outside starting to group back up into turn 3.
Yeah, again, Milam continues to lead that outside lane. He's got one of the veterans, J.R. Miller, on his back bumper for Team PGR. A couple of those cars are in this heat race. Miller and Nash Brambilla, both at the front of the field. Both have been in numerous situations just like this. Milam looks in his rearview mirror and sees, one of the most seasoned drivers in the field on his back bumper as of right now. Bottom side is where the momentum continues to be, though. Alt, then it's Davidson. We talked about him from the recruitment race a couple weeks ago. This is his opportunity to run in the PGR 500. He is second. Andrew Voigt through on the inside. 2x2, everybody minding P's and Q's for the moment. Again, both heats tonight, I feel like the early moves to the third lane have been in both of those heats. Tonight, so far here in heat number 8, no one is really moving out there. Just 2 lanes of racing so far, and the outside's not been able to get enough momentum to even try an attempt at the third lane.
As they stay 2x2 here as they work off of turn 2, the 81 on the high side going to start to really fade now. Further back in the pack you go. How about no third lane yet? Everybody content to mind their P's and Q's. TJ Moon in the 70 car making a start here tonight. They're going to go third lane now. Jumping to the high side. That's the 99 Coca-Cola machine. Payson Lindsay, we've called his name before. He's trying to go to the front here early.
Again, Lindsay, I talked about him from the recruitment race portion of Speed Weeks. He ran very well in the couple of times that we saw him. Got a heat race win, actually, in one of those recruitment race sessions, so no surprise. for Lindsay to be moving back to the front in car number 99, trying to make his way into a transfer position. Tell you what, this is about as calm as the front of the field has been in any of the 8 heat races to this point. The top 8 back to J.R. Miller are clear on the bottom. It's about to be 9 as Milam is filed down there as well. Car in the wall out back. Everybody gets it back together. That was back around the Payson Lindsay machine that we just talked about. 9 cars clear on the bottom. Nothing able to be worked through in the middle. And again, up at the front, this is about as low energy as the racing's been, but not for long. Now cars are going to jump out of line further back as they try to work up. That's Tanner Long, Blake Neer in the 14, and others up the outside.
Outside trying to get going, but Dylan Alt is the Pied Piper of Daytona right now. A couple cars jumping out. All of a sudden, the outside is going to start to roll again. The 14 doing a lot of pushing here. That's Blake Neer trying to shove the 84 of Tanner Long to the front. Got to be careful. Oh, man, they got all set coming through 3 and 4. That was almost a big-time issue, but they hold it together. Now they've got to regroup, though. For Dylan Alt, though, at the front of the field, you talk about Zach Davidson Dawson, a name that we maybe haven't heard as much, but he has looked like a veteran so far here tonight. Davidson continuing to play the game of patience, and I think a lot of the guys in the top 5 are doing the same, especially with how well we saw it work for Buys, Harper, and John Ellis Jr. in that last heat.
Yeah, absolutely, and guys continue to wrap the double yellow line for now. Again, that line goes all the way back to the Tanner Long machine, who continues to be the one really trying to get this outside lane to roll. They're up to about the, well, it was about the 6th car in line. Now they drop back again on the entrance to 3. J.R. Miller pulls clear for a moment. Here comes Long again at the outside. They're making slow strides. It's not massive strides like we've seen the outside make in other heats, but it's slow progress. They are slowly working their way back towards the front of the field, trying to get inside the top 5, but again, they've stalled right around J.R. Miller in the 7th position as they run right now. And for Dylan Alt, this is about as carefree as it gets, or stress-free as it gets, rather, in the 47 up front, the Sunny D machine. About as stress-free as you're going to get this entire week. Davidson's not really put much pressure on him in terms of pushing. He's saving temps. Everyone behind them choosing to mind their P's and Q's. But slowly, here comes the outside. They're up to 6th. They'll challenge for 5th up the banking as Joey Beck will get the challenge at the right side door.
Man, with the way they're running up front, it almost has that feel that this pace could start to single file out once again, but maybe not. Nash Brambilla is going to take a look to the high side. The 23 Caesar Sportsbook machine trying to go to the front. That's a Mustang going to be working with 2 other Mustangs, but they still don't have the momentum. They're going to stay 2x2 for now as they work down the short chute into turn 1. Alt's Chevy leads the way here at Daytona. The inside's got all the momentum, but the outside slowly now trying to work about even with the 3rd row.
Yeah, the 3rd lane, or the 2nd lane rather, is up to the 4th position. Again, right about Joey Beck right now. Now they're trying to work up to the 3rd position as the 9 car of Voigt will get the challenge on the right side door number from Brambilla. As Brambilla has pulled up again, as more cars have joined this line, more energy is available to that 2nd lane to be able to work forward, and that contributes to that quicker move up through the field for Long, Brambilla, Neer, and company, and they're alongside 2nd. They'll get alongside Alt just about. They're trying to grab any side draft off Dylan Alt on the outside of the racetrack as Brambilla continues to lead the outside lane. Long is still the pusher. Alt with Davidson. They've got a group up now on the bottom side of the racetrack. Davidson is up along the back of Dylan Alt, but he's just not been able to get close enough to slam draft. That's what we call when they push through. Now the bottom lane, though, gets a nice run through 1 and 2. The outside unable to get grouped back up, and this has happened a couple times when they've stalled out on that outside lane. Now they'll get back together on the run down to turn 3. They'll start to work back and gain what they just lost.
And as they stay 2x2 for about the first half of the field, I keep watching towards the back here. Payson Lindsay has been the spark. He really wants to get this 3rd lane going in the 99 machine. The problem is he can't get that many takers. You notice Goodpaster and the 60 car going to go. Now it looks like the 1's going to jump out of line, but they are still struggling to get this 3rd lane together, and that is exactly what Dylan Alt wants to hear. At the front of the field, the 40 machine continues to roll strong with just 21 laps to go here in heat race number 8. Davidson 2nd. As you go back to 3rd, Andrew Voigt, Joey Beck, all still holding clear on the inside. The outside still can't get up to the leaders.
No, this is very odd because that top 3 on the outside lane has been pretty good in terms of their pushes and lining up and being able to triple tandem, and they're just for some reason not able to get that line up about past the 4th position. And again, Alton Davidson, it's not like they're doing anything exotic on the bottom lane. They are about a quarter car length apart. No one is really slam drafting through. Now another car is going to try to jump out. That's Larry Mack. Here comes car number 80 on the outside of the racetrack. That gray, white, and red Ford Mustang looking to join the leaders. He jumps in front of Brambilla. Now a different combo at the front. Let's see if this helps. With a different pair of cars here at the front of the field, and a different pusher in Nash Brambilla, maybe just getting some fresh temps, getting a fresh pusher, and getting a couple more cars to gain some energy. Maybe this will help. Larry Mack up alongside Davidson for second. Here comes the run on the entry to 3. Alt finally may have a challenger here up the banking.
And Misael Flores will join Caden Heiner, 2 cars that are lapped down. We'll keep tabs on that. At the front of the field, though, they are still 2 by 2. You've got a Chevy leading the inside. It's Dylan Alt, a Ford leading the outside. Here comes Larry Mack. He's got a big run as they work through the tri-oval. 19 laps to go, and the field is now stacked 2 by 2 all the way from the front to the back. No third lane just yet, Dawson. We talked about Pace and Lindsay. That 99 machine towards the back, no move yet. For some of these other guys that now find themselves trapped on the inside, what do? You got to get to the front, but there just hasn't been much of a charge. Still 2 by 2 as they exit turn 2. Now it's a drag race down the super stretch between Larry McDonald and Dylan Alt.
Now you've almost missed your opportunity to go to the third lane, because now Zach Davidson has ramped up his pushing. So too has Brambilla. McDonald to the lead. And now again, with these guys starting to push a little bit harder at the front of the field, there is going to be less opportunity for the third lane to get going against a safer barrier than there was about 5 laps ago. The inside and outside now even up once again. McDonald to the lead, a new leader for the first time in this heat race since Alt started on the pole earlier on in the night. McDonald over Alt, over a battle for third between Brambilla and Davidson. Here comes Brambilla again. Tanner Long is the pusher, and they're starting to experience the same problem they did. It must be the combination of cars on the outside. Brambilla, Long, and Near. There is something that's just incompatible between those 3 cars. They have not been able to effectively get that outside lane working up to the leaders. They're only able to get up as far as Voigt in 4th. They may lose 5th to Joey Beck by the time they work up the banking again.
With 18 laps to go, I do want to make a quick note. We do see the reports in the chat of some issues going on with the stream at the moment. We do apologize for those technical difficulties. Our producer is currently working on trying to get that sorted out. Until then, we're going to try to keep it as MRN style as we possibly can. Up front, leading the way, Larry McDonald. How about that? Try to win it for his dear friend George Johnston. He's got the 80 machine out in front, but now the outside trying to roll once again. It's the 14 machine of Blake Neer trying to get to the front. He's got a push from Nash Brambilla off of turn 2.
The entire field works 2 by 2. Most of the opening 26 cars that took a lap, and now not for long. Payson Lindsay about 10 rows deep in the field took a look out of line. He jumps back in. Now the outside line has shuffled up their order just a little bit. Near was the lead car, and that combination works. Dylan Alt jumps out of line from second behind Larry McDonald. Alt under the bumper now of Near on the outside lane in car 47, the Sunny D Chevrolet. It's Near behind him, then Brambilla, then Long. Now they'll transition to the bottom. Alt and Near transition down. They'll lead the top lane again to Brambilla and Tanner Long. So now it's Alt, Near, McDonald, Davidson on the inside. On the outside, it's Brambilla, then Long, then the 11 of Michael Brown, who's worked forward. Then the Matt Cherry machine, I believe, is the car behind them. Some new players emerge at the front. Now the outside starts to roll. Here comes Nash Brambilla. He finally may get his shot at the lead here in the banking of 3.
You saw the 24 get spit out on the third lane, continues to go towards the back here. Not sure if it's an issue or something else, but the 24 is going to have to regroup pretty soon. I believe that's Steve Bocock. No, that might be Harrison Santos. Regardless, everybody gets back down in line. Now the third lane's going to get going again. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Brambilla tried to cover a block on the outside. Tanner Long was having none of it. They're going to go side by side for the lead. And here we go. Third lane starting to get some momentum. They are now making it up to about the 4th row. We're going to go 3 wide into turn number 1. But at the front of the field, it is all the 84 Tanner Long.
Yeah, Tanner Long finally takes his first shot out front. He and Nash Brambilla, I'll tell you what, they stayed committed. They continued to work at it. They did not give up in that outside lane, and it finally pays off for them right at the halfway mark as both now go to the lead in front of Dylan Alt. The outside now is led by Michael Brown. As a couple cars bailed, they are trying to get that energy reformed. They have not yet done so. The third lane is proving to be a bit of an issue, as well as they are side drafting that middle lane down into the into the bottom lane, and then now guys start to bail. You see Milam, a couple of others bail, wearing bails. As the field works back down to 2 wide, we'll go back downstairs briefly. Our pit reporter, Tyler Vickery's got an update for us on a couple of the leaders, the Team PGR cars, Miller and Nash Brambilla.
Yeah, thanks, Dawson. Yeah, as Nash Brambilla and JR Miller both in this for Team PGR, they are actually getting help by Dylan Alt as well. At one point, there was talks about whether or not the Chevy cars are not the greatest car on this track currently. Working together right now, and they're just trying to stay alive as much as possible. A few other radio chatters regarding the high lane possibly being an option, but the cars are starting to fall apart right now.
How about Sam Horst here? Going to duck back down the line. Tyler, we appreciate that report. Been doing a heck of a job all night. Whoa, watch out, trouble! One hard into the outside wall. 2 get collected. Mark Rogers is in it. I believe a couple more are going to get collected as multiple now sliding through the grass. First caution of the night here in Heat Race 8. And yellow flags tonight presented by the NASRA 360 Racing Network. We'll get to more on that in just a moment. JR Miller, Mark Rogers, and I believe we had one more. It may have been James Warren. Yes, he has got damage to that beautiful number 13 JW Ford Mustang. In Dawson, it was an incident further back, somewhat isolated, but it still leaves a few cars with major damage with just 13 laps to go here at Daytona.
Towards the tail end of the field, as guys started to get a little bit desperate, and we talked about this being the time period right after halfway where guys start to find that desperation. And as they worked through the banking of turn number 4, it was actually James Waring, the first car that I saw get out of shape in the 13. He bounces off the outside wall as he was trying to avoid, I believe it's the Sam Hurst machine in front of him. He's going to collect JR Miller. They're both going to come down and collect Rogers, and it is on from there. A couple more cars towards the tail end get into it as well. I could not quite tell which car. It might have been the Schroeder machine. I can't tell for sure. That gets through it on the inside through the grass. Joey Beck slides through as well. So a couple cars involved get big damage, but a couple more very lucky there to avoid damage and give themselves another shot late in this race.
Yeah, that's a tough break, too, for James. He had such a big run, Dawson. We talk about the speeds that these guys are running going through the corner. It looked like when he got to the back bumper of Horst, he wanted to split him 3 wide, but as he went to do that, didn't quite get enough wheel into it. The car shot up the track, and then, yes, once he bounced off the outside wall, basically just a victim of circumstance at that point for Mark Rogers and JR Miller. Big hits in that one, though. All those guys going to have to go in and use their first fast repair of the night as we will get things reset and ready to go here from Daytona. But I'll tell you what, for the guys up front, this is about as tame as we have seen all night, Dawson. The blocks have felt controlled. Everybody's been minding their P's and Q's, and besides that incident itself, we haven't really seen much in the form of close calls.
No, which has been very odd. Again, the trend this week has been quite a few close calls. If you'll remember back to last night, a couple close calls involving guys like Malik Ray and Logan Helton running at the front of their heat race. And throughout the week, I feel like we've had a lot of times where guys have made saves. Cameron Craighead comes to mind from the last heat as he came back up on the track after expiring his engine onto the racetrack. A close call there. It feels like we've had a ton of times where we've had a bunch of close calls tonight. It's been pretty civilized, I think is the word I would use, amongst the front 15 to 20 cars. These guys had, for the most part, been pretty polite to one another, considering they're all racing for 10 spots on Saturday. It tends to be pretty cutthroat, but tonight, at least in this 8th heat race, a lot of guys choosing to be a little more civil, at least until we get down into crunch time. Now, will that change over the next 12 laps? Of course it will, because you'll have guys that have to get desperate. They have to look out for themselves and try to make their way into the Saturday races. But for now, all things considered, guys are treating each other pretty nicely here towards the front of the field. And as we get reset, I'll tell you, I got to give a lot of props to Tanner Long and Nash Brambilla here as they have continued to work away at getting to the front of the field. And now that they're here, they've done a very good job of controlling the tone of this race at the front. They worked for 10, 12, 14 laps to make sure they could get up to this spot. Blake Neer can be credited for that as well. Those 3 drivers, I mean, it's a heck of a drive so far to just stay with it, keep their nose to the grindstone, and really work to get all the way to the front of the field.
We're going to set up for a restart here, likely right around 10 laps to go. So we're starting to slowly work into the pay window now. Desperation time is among us. If you're just tuning in tonight, again, apologies for some of the streaming issues, but we do appreciate you being here. Things that will get ironed out here as we go through the next couple of days, and obviously looking forward to the big event, the PGR 500 feature on Sunday. A couple of housekeeping notes to keep up with. If you are new here to the channel and to the event this weekend, over $11,000 the total race purse here tonight that went into the PGR 500 event. and a lot of guys still in contention to race for that. We've still got a lot of heat races left to go. We crossed the halfway point tonight. LCQs and duels are going to take place on Saturday, and then the feature will kick off at noon on Super Bowl Sunday. And we also do want to give another big thanks to all the sponsors that do hop on board here to make the PGR 500 all that it is. We certainly couldn't do it without them. And Heat Race 8, our sponsor spotlight for tonight is, again, JW Paints. When it comes to turning heads on iRacing, James Waring delivers some of the cleanest and hottest custom paints in the service, and you are going to see plenty of those snazzy paints, if you will, as we go through this year's PGR 500. So if you want your car looking that fast, all you got to do is find JW Paints, the PGR eSports Discord, and get yours done today. Well, Dawson, as we set up here for the restart, the guys that are up front, again, they've been in control here for the most part. Dylan Alt going to restart third. He has a little work to do here, but I got to think he's pretty comfortable with pushing just as much as he is leading.
A really good performance tonight so far from the driver of the 40, 7-40 on your timing and scoring, and I anticipated that Alt would be pretty comfortable, a super speedway guy himself in all rights, so I figured he would come in and be confident to be in both roles. He's done both over his extended sim racing career, especially at the professional level. He's comfortable being a pusher, but he's also comfortable to get out front, to manage lanes, and that has proved to be the difference maker tonight. If you'll remember back, Ethan Eckert, back in his heat race to open the night, was able to do just that. He was able to control lanes, move back and forth. It led him to victory lane. Jackson Bai, same thing in heat 7. We'll see if Alt can complete the job here in heat number 8, but a good effort so far for the driver of the 47.
All right, here we go. Pace car going to pull off once again. Let's try this potentially one more time. Still going to be 10 laps to go. Field in the hands of Tanner Long. He will work back into the sim market restart zone. Here we go. Green flag back in the air, and it's a great jump for the 84. He's going to quickly have a decision. Does he want to stay high or does he want to stay low? Looks like for now the 84 is content to run on the bottom. Dylan Alt with a big push down the short chute as they climb the banking into turn 1. But it's the 14 car now who's going to get tandem together. 3 cars pushing means the inside's got the advantage for now. Nash Brambilla, though, trying to get together up top. He's got a push now from Michael Brown, the high side, trying to draw back even down the super stretch.
They're going to get a helper right here. It's Dylan Alt out of line in front of Nash Brambilla. We talked about the confidence. He shows it right there to the bumper of Brambilla, right back down on the bumper of Tanner Long. It's Dylan Alt back to the point in heat race number 8, but he'll face an immediate challenge. Here comes the Caesar Sportsbook Ford Mustang. That is Nash Brambilla, the driver for Team PGR. Carrying the banner of the promotion this week, Brambilla will go to the point. He'll bring Michael Brown with him. Matt Cherry is the 3rd car in line. Oh, Brambilla almost got hung in the middle right there. That was dangerous territory. Michael Brown turns left. Matt Cherry turns left. They both go to the inside, and now Brambilla reeling just a bit. He'll wait on the help of Chris Waldron on the outside. New players here at the front. Waldron, Cowan, Brown, Cherry, and others all getting into the top 10 for the first time in this race. Michael Brown leads down the super stretch ahead of Cherry. Alt goes 3rd, then it's Long, then it's Near. They'll all 3 be clear up to the middle right here. I anticipate at least 1, if not more, will make a move. Davidson, the first to move in 3, and others will follow.
Brown and Cherry have been taking advantage of every single run they've had so far. Now the 40 of Alt, though, ready to go back to battle as he fades to the high side. The 40 is going to look to draw even with 2nd as they cross the line. Larry McDonald still up here in contention. And the 84, we talked about the run that Tanner Long's been on so far. Zach Davidson, but now we've got a 3rd lane starting to get brewing once again. It looks like it's going to be the 14 car. No, excuse me, that's a little bit further back. Contact. That was the 78 of J.R. Miller, almost into the outside wall. He catches it, but now they're going to wreck out back. 2 cars into the fence. The 13 of James Waring with big damage as Roger slides down to the inside. 2nd caution of the night.
This is back around James Waring again towards the tail end of the field, and will send us into a very late restart in this 8th heat race. No surprise after the patterns that we've seen so far. I'll tell you, it actually got started up in front of James Waring, but I don't think that the J.R. Miller incident had a ton to do with the start of this crash. It was Mark Rogers in the back of Steve Bokoff that was the first couple cars that got sideways. James Waring gets collected in the secondary. The 027 of Flores is involved. That's the 027 second incident of the night as well. Unfortunately, the brunt of this one is going to go to the heat sponsor, James Waring. That's a couple now for the driver of the 13 for Dega Pros. A tough break for him as he gets the outside wall and deals some more damage to that already repaired number 13.
Yeah, that's just a tough break. Rogers obviously trying to split the middle and just caught him with either a little bit of netcode or contact. But yeah, more importantly, Dawson, This is going to be the 13 of James Waring. With all that damage, I don't know that he has his fast repair left. I believe he had to take it from that first incident. And if that is the case, this could potentially put an end to the night for your Heat 8 race sponsor. So we'll have to see how it works out for James Waring. It also looked like the 12 of Steve Bocock got some pretty significant suspension damage as well. So we'll have to keep tabs on what it's looking like for the rest of his race. But this is now going to give us a restart, likely around 5 laps to go. And Dawson, what do we say? Cautions breed cautions. We've seen that all of this week. And so far we've seen that both heats that we have had tonight. We'll see if we get it again here tonight, but certainly starting to look more like a green-white checkered is in the cards here for tonight if it plays out the way it has so far.
Yeah, cautions breed caution, I guess would be the right word to use this time, because we likely will only get one more with going back green with 5 laps to go. That caution would send us into the overtime period that we have, the one extra green-white checkered. Should we need it, will be used here if we get another caution flag. It's only an opportunity for one more, but if any other heat is an indication, we'll have to use it. Again, all of the heats to this point have used the one overtime attempt, and that's not to say that they've all been filled with cautions. It's the timing of the cautions. Remember back in our previous heat, heat number 7, the caution came out inside 10 laps to go, and then we got a caution to send us to overtime. And it just happens to be that the timing of these cautions is late enough to utilize that 2-lap overtime period. Real quickly before we get ready to go back green, let's go downstairs once again. An update from our pit reporter, Tyler Vickery.
Yeah, Dustin, and the number 12 of Bocock, he actually got an EOL for cause of that penalty. Also listening into a lot of the drivers as well. A few of the teams, like the Team PGR, after the incident there with JR Miller, they're working on trying to get JR Miller back into the top 10, especially with the way the situation is. That's been their main focus now. Nash is trying to hold on to the reins as much as possible. A few other teams, such as TJ Moon, his teammates and spotters are trying to work on him getting up to the top. A lot of also conversation from a few other teams that the third lane has been very advantageous when it comes to runs. However, those runs are very, very short, and you have to make an advantageous move then. If you don't, it's going to fall apart very quick.
Tyler, we appreciate that update. Doing a heck of a job again, as always. As we do get geared up here to get back to green flag racing, Dawson, I don't think JR Miller is the only driver in a little bit of desperation mode now to try to get back to the front. You see single file, and it is going to be Michael Brown and Dylan Alt here who are going to line up the front row. Matt Cherry, Tanner Long back in row 2, and I still think that Michael Brown and Matt Cherry have been arguably the most impressive duo here over the course of the last 10-20 laps. They have been able to get it figured out. Tanner Long, he's up 9 spots from where he started this race at. The 84 has been up front for most of this race, but then even as you go back towards the guys in the last transfer spots, I look at Andrew Voigt, Chris Waldron, Sam Horst. I mean, this isn't just a, hey, I sit here and maybe our line moves and I transfer in. I mean, you've got to really get up on the wheel and go for it here, because with only 5, 4, whatever it's going to be laps remaining to go here, you don't have a lot of time. If you wait around, you get caught up either in a wreck or maybe the line just doesn't roll, you may not find yourself moving on to the next step in the journey to the PGR 500.
Problem with that is there's a bit of a trade-off when it comes to wanting to move up and put yourself in a vulnerable position, and that's been another pattern of these heat races, have been that desperation has typically caused a crash sometime in the final 2 laps, especially once we get into an overtime period. There's typically been a crash inside the transfer positions that shuffles up that order, so there's a trade-off. You can absolutely make the move to the middle or make the move to the top or take a gap where there is one, but you have to be willing to accept the risk that there will be a crash at some point in these final few laps that you may or may not have a chance to get out of and put yourself in a transfer position. So it's a balance as a driver. Do you make the move up? Do you just hang along the double yellow line and hope that they crash and that you can find a way out of it? We've seen drivers advance both making the move on these last runs and also drivers advance just staying home on the bottom lane and letting the race come to them in these late race scenarios. It's such an interesting balance. We have seen both work. It does not make it any less confusing inside the cockpit or any less stressful as to what you do right here on a late restart.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't. And as we do line up here, lights are off on the pace car, so we will be going back to green flag racing this time. And up front for Michael Brown, beautiful looking colors for his number 11. And the 40 of Dylan Alt. He's got the all blackout scheme here tonight, but again, the only Coke Series driver in this heat. We've seen the trend of how it's played out for the Coke guys in all of the other heats, so we'll have to see how this pans out for him. JR Miller again back in 16th. Joey Beck, watch for those two to maybe get together and try to go back to the front. Derek Fulton, we saw him in a couple recruitment races. Things weren't quite going his way there, but we'll see if he can maybe make it happen here tonight. And then some of the cars involved in the last few incidents, one of those being Mark Rogers. We'll have to see what he can do. James Warren, by the way, did get back with the field Dawson, but that car heavily damaged. So his night potentially going to be over, at least in a competitive sense. But we've seen anything happen so far, and who knows what will happen here. It's going to be just 4 laps left to go here at the World Center of Racing. And here we go. Field rolls back into the Simrat Market restart zone. Green flag back in the air from Michael Brown as he gets a good jump through the gears. But Dylan Alt, notice already hard on the inside door of the 45. He is going to try to side draft for all it is worth, trying to hold Cherry back until he's able to get a push on the outside, but nothing doing just yet. Now as we go into turn 1, all of a sudden the momentum starts to shift. The outside's got to run, and here comes the 84. Tanner Long's going to pull up to second. The 11, though, has got a 3-car tandem pushing behind him. The 14 and the 45 trying to get this inside back to the front.
Dylan Alt said welcome to the show. Michael Brown and Matt Cherry right there on the restart as he put a tight side draft on those 2 cars to keep himself alongside and get back to the lead as soon as they climbed the banking, and Tanner Long got there to be of assistance. The bottom lane rallies a bit here with Brown. They'll come even here off turn 4. Cherry is the pusher down there, but a really good soldier, like you mentioned, for Michael Brown. So far trouble. Cowan gets into Hurston. It's on out back. Big crash. Multiple cars involved. J.R. Miller's in it. Multiple cars spinning out of control in the tri-oval. Will come to a stop again. I think Bocock might be in this one, and more cars crashing. Cowan, Waring, Hurst, Schroeder, and others involved as the field works back toward turn 1. Another big crash will send us to overtime.
Calamity coming out of turn 4 down to the tri-oval, and yes, the streak will continue. 8 heats, all have gone to an overtime finish. And as we'll go back and get a replay of this one in just a moment, obviously some damage here to some cars that were fighting right around the transfer position, but this is maybe kind of another interesting one. It looks like it occurs right around the 77 of Joey Beck. Looks like the 20 did try to jump out of line here. Beck's going to roll up with a push. And then right as he gets there, he tries to cut to the inside. It looks like the 20, though, maybe starting to come down just a little bit. Either way, a little contact, little net code. Once they get together, it's on from there. Innocent victim was the 6th of Sam Horst, but he gets collected. And then big impacts there for Joey Beck, Sam Horst, and then the 1 car came barreling in at the end there. That was Harrison Santos, who makes the 2nd hit off the inside wall. And this again, Dawson, going to send us to overtime and could potentially take out a few more contenders.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to use another overtime attempt, and this crash was back around the Cowan and Beck machines. It might have been a coordinated move up to the top side by Cowan, and as he tried to rethink it and come back down, unfortunately the hesitation cost him there in the travel and cost several other drivers as well. Again, Santos, Heiner, Hurst, Waring, I believe got a piece of that one as well. Of course, Beck, Cowan, Rogers, Schroeder. There's a number of cars back around the 18th through the 25th positions that were involved in that one towards the tail end of the field. A couple guys lucky to get through that one, just slammed on the brakes out back of the crash and managed to find a way through it, give themselves another life. And that will send us now into an overtime period. Again, 2nd verse, same as the 1st, rather 8th verse, same as the 1st here in heat number 8. Another overtime attempt going to be needed here. All 8 heats have used the overtime attempt that we have been given, and in all the other 7, we've had some kind of calamity on this last restart. I have to imagine that's on the minds of the drivers right now.
Yeah, definitely for the guys that are near and inside of the transfer positions. It seems like that's where the calamity has been on these green-white checkers, especially once we come out of turn 4 to the checkered. I think that almost would be where I'd be the most scared as a driver with what we've seen so far. But I do think up front for Michael Brown, Dylan Alt, Matt Cherry, really everybody inside your top 5, they've been so smooth and so clean here tonight that I wouldn't be too worried about them. Now, as you start to get back towards around the top 10, that's where I think it could become maybe a little bit more of a concern. But I look at guys like Larry McDonald, Nash Brambilla, 2 veterans on the money racing scene. They are really close to being in dual transfer positions, so we'll see how aggressive they're willing to get to maybe pick up a few more spots, break into the top 5. Andrew Voigt, Chris Waldron, rounding out the rest of your top 10. Payson Lindsay, TJ Moon. I mean, these are everybody inside the top 15 just about has been making up positions since the start of this race. A couple drivers going the wrong direction include Dalton Milam, who we talked about being so good over the last couple big events here in PGR. He's back in 14th, so he's going to have some work to do. And then you go a little bit further back. J.R. Miller not able to gain much during that last short run, so he's going to have his work cut out for him here with just 2 laps to go. Quick reminder of the overtime rules. Again, same as it's been all week. 2-lap shootout, no cautions. We will race it back to the checkered flag. You got to keep that in mind, though, because there will still be penalties issued for drivers found at fault, causing a wreck here over the last 2 laps.
Yeah, and already we've seen that come into play. You know, in fact, one coming out of heat race number 6, Cameron Craighead, unable to advance out of the 10th position, and EOL was issued to him for a last lap crash back earlier in the night, and he will no longer be advancing as of this moment into the LCQ. So it can absolutely happen. Just because there's not a caution does not mean that you could throw whatever move or throw whatever block that you would choose as a driver. You still have to pick your moments. You still have to be considerate of the fact that penalties are going to be issued, regardless of the fact there's no caution to be caused. There still are crashes that will be reviewed post-race if absolutely needed. Again, there have not been an extensive amount of those reviews needed for incidents on the last lap. A lot of them have simply been desperation. Guys looking for gaps. Racing incidents tend to happen when chess games happen at 200 miles an hour on the final lap, but certainly still a factor as we get ready to go back green. Brown and Cherry, you mentioned them on the last restart, Austin. I find it very interesting. They're actually going to line up nose to tail here. That's really advantageous for those two. They seem to work as a good pair, but Alt and Tanner Long looked good on that last restart together. They'll line up as a pair as well. Blake Neer, Zach Davidson still very much in the conversation. We talked about guys like Brambilla and McDonald. I look to outside the top 10. Lindsay, Fulton, Mila, Miller, Joey Beck as guys that are absolutely going to be coming forward right here. They are not done having a say in this race. They're not done having a say in the top 10. I expect they'll be on the move as soon as we take the green flag.
Certainly will, and it's going to be, again, just 2 laps to go. Lights are off on the pace car, so as we come out of turn 4, final check of the tires here and the final heat race of the night. We're going to see who's going to get it done. We have seen a lot of underdog victories so far and a lot of underdog transfers. We'll see if we can finally get a dominant winner here in heat race number 8. Pace car pulls off, field rolling back up to the restart zone. Green flag in the air for the final time tonight. Good restart up front for Brown. He's going to get the best jump. And Dylan Alt now is going to do the same thing he did before. Big side draft already to the door of the 45. Matt Cherry, though, is going to roll up to the back bumper. And look at all the disorganization out back. Everybody's got big gaps between the field, and once this closes up, it's going to be interesting to see which line's got the momentum.
So far, it still continues to be the bottom, but here comes the roll on the outside. A big blink up front from Brown. That's going to cause a brief stack up on that bottom lane out behind Michael Brown, but Matt Cherry very aware and gets right back to the back bumper of his quasi-teammate here in this heat race up front. That inside continues to roll. They've got 3 cars clear. Make it 4. Larry McDonald will find himself clear. Third line's rolling. It's back around TJ Moon. He and Dalton Meelan the first to try it. Nobody else goes up there with him as they come off turn 4. Move to the inside. Cherry got to the inside of Brown. A mistake from the 11. White flag is up, presented by Bender's Bar and Grill. And as they work back towards turn 1, Brown, Cherry got together for a moment. Oh man, Cherry gets pushed by Blake Neer. Now Brown's going to get turned right in front of the field. Lindsay, Brambilla, Hurst, the big one strikes as they work off turn 2. 15 plus cars involved, and these guys may very well all be in. Back to Zach Davidson, it's not the case, or Flores rather, and that is the case. 10 cars pull away as they work back to 3.
The question is, though, can they all keep it clean, and who wants that extra spot into the duels? Dylan Alt leads the outside. He's getting pushed by Davidson, but he doesn't have a lot of momentum yet. The 80 McDonald's going to look high. Drag race off of turn 4. The 40's looking for one more side draft. Here we go. Back to the line, side by side. Alt versus the 45. Dylan Alt wins it at Daytona.
Dylan Alt, cool, calm, collected for the longtime professional as he goes to victory lane in the heat race. Fended off the moves at the end, got the right push. He's worked into the duels and the pole shootout on Friday night. How about the run from Zach Davidson? I wondered if the recruitment race success would translate. The answer, a resounding yes. Matt Cherry is in. Unfortunately, his partner not going to be quite as lucky, I don't think. Larry McDonald gets into the duels. A heck of a story for Larry Mack. And Blake Neer rounds out the dual spots. And again, chaos out back as another last lap crash erupts.
Well, Dawson, you know, I talked about this right on the restart. I said there was a bunch of gaps. Well, that is exactly what led to that first big issue, at least the stack-up part of it. I'm not sure exactly what the problem was up front. Looks like the 14, as he got to the 45 of Cherry, maybe just a little bit of an offset push. But it seemed like Cherry saved it. I thought these guys were going to be okay, but then from up top. The 11 comes down. I mean, this was a mess. Again, just very surprising to see this sort of an issue. Part of me wonders if for the 11, once he saw Cherry get shoved off the racetrack, if Michael Brown thought, okay, well, I might as well go to the inside now that I've got it, or if it was just the push from Alt sent him down there. Whatever the case was, I mean, this is just a mess. They're wrecking about 5 rows deep before the caution even starts to pile up, and it's just a mad scramble. Everybody's full gas, hoping to make it through it. A lot of guys get collected. Alt does make a heck of a save here on secondary contact with the 14. That could have been race ending for him, but then after that, it is on from here. 3 on the bottom, 2 up top. And Dawson, if this was the old car, I would have thought for sure the bottom had it. But apparently now, even with only 2 cars, the top was able to get it done. Dylan Alt wins it here at Daytona.
Yeah, frantic last lap for Dylan Alt after he filled that gap. Matt Cherry gets pushed off the racetrack. I'm not sure. It could have been related. We saw some connection issues a couple laps before for the Cherry and Brown machines. I wonder if that struck again. And yeah, you're right. Brown's coming down. Cherry's trying to rejoin the track, and that's his right, is to try to rejoin. And as he does, he gets into Brown. And I mean, this is a massive crash behind them. Payson Lindsay, J.R. Miller, Hurst, Beck, Cowan, Meelam, Brambilla is in it. TJ Moon gets in it. Steve Bocock gets in it. I think Mark Rogers is involved. There are a number of cars out back of the leaders that get a piece of this. And then, of course, the scramble up front. You're right. I thought the bottom had the advantage, but give credit where credit is due to Davidson and Alt on the outside. They make the race-winning move into turn number 3. They get the push off turn 4, and it was home free for the Sunny D Chevrolet.
Certainly was. Well, we do want to go ahead and get a look at your results here. Again, unofficial, lot for race control to break down in this one. But your unofficial Heat 8 race winner is going to be Coke Series driver Dylan Alt. He gets it done in the number 40. Zach Davidson, though, he will take home second. So both of those two going to have a shot in the pole shootout on Friday night. Matt Cherry will advance through to the duels, finishing 3rd. And there you go, Larry McDonald. It may not be a win, but you know how much this has to mean to him. Takes home 4th here tonight, and he will also be headed straight through to the duels. Blake Neer, the last driver that will advance to the duels. Tanner Long, the first man into the LCQ, so he will be able to start somewhat towards the front of the field in that LCQ. Chris Waldron in 7th, Andrew Voigt 8th. Michael Brown, after that last lap incident, finishes 9th, so he would still transfer into the LCQ. And then Misael Flores, who we didn't get a chance to talk about much tonight, manages to sneak into the final transfer spot starting in the LCQs on Saturday.
Mark Rogers, unfortunately, again, as of right now, is the first car out in the 11th position. Dalton Meelam is in 12th. Dustin Cowan finishes 13th. Craig Schroeder in 14th. Joey Beck in 15th. TJ Moon 16th. Derek Fulton 17th. Nash Brambilla, tough break for the driver of the 23 for Team PGR. His run ends tonight in 18th. Sam Hurst, his run ends in 19th. Payson Lindsay, an encouraging run for him after his recruitment race performance, but can't quite get back inside the top 10. He finishes 20th.
And sponsor of tonight's heat, James Waring, will finish 21st. Jeffrey Goodpaster in 22nd. Caden Heiner in 23rd. J.R. Miller not going to be able to represent PGR in the 500 this year. He finishes back in 24th. Harrison Santos 25th. Steve Bocock in 26th. And he will round out your field here in heat race number 8. Well, we've got a chance to talk to the winner so far tonight, and we're going to get another opportunity to do that with heat race 8 winner Dylan Alt. We'll see if we can drag him up. My partner Dawson Wise stands by with him.
Yeah, Dylan, it's the boys in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got a copy.
Well, a fun one here at Daytona that has the wildest ending that I think we've seen so far this week, as the leader goes around in turn 1. Take us through that scramble on the last lap first off, but also how you managed to get all the way to PGR Heat Race Victory Lane.
Yeah, the last lap, or the race start, actually starting there, I seemed like I had a pretty good start, but I seemed like the guy behind me didn't have a great start at all, so I was kind of left out to dry. So I kind of just fell back, and once the guy behind me actually got on my bumper, he got hot, and I was just waiting for someone to pull up in front of me so I can actually push them and get back up to the front. But I was just falling back. But once we got to the start-finish line to start that final lap, I don't know what happened, but the leader just started slowing down. I don't know if they got hot or got squirrely or what, but yeah, going into turn 1, I knew we were 3 wide and I was getting turned. And out of nowhere, I'm just yanking wheel, just trying to save the car. And I don't know how the heck I saved the car, but I did. And luckily I had help behind me immediately. And so I just stayed with, it was Zach that was behind me, and he was just pushing me the whole time to the win. And I'm just thankful I'm here and I'm transferred in. I actually made the pole shootout too. I'm not really a plate guy. Kind of just started getting into this, I guess, just to see what I could do. Maybe if I can find some luck. And yeah, found some luck.
Well, sometimes luck is what it takes to get to victory lane in some of these races. And look, coming into this week, again, you talk about right there that you're not necessarily a plate guy. So what was your mindset coming in? What was your confidence level coming into this heat race that you'd be able to not only advance, but get to victory lane and race in the pole shootout on Friday?
So my confidence level, I feel like I have a lot of experience on like the iRacing platform, but not much in the plate side of things. Going into this heat, knew nobody besides a few names I've raced in official races. But yeah, I just kind of scrolled into the Discord channels and just asked if I can work with somebody, and I ended up working with a few people. And yeah, they were fun to. I was actually learning from them quite a bit here and there, and yeah, I just my confidence level went up once I actually had a group of people to talk to and actually have fun doing this. Because I realized every single time I do like an official race by myself or something that's a plate race, I just find myself wrecked or just not enjoying it. So yeah, just having fun doing it. I felt better about it, so I did better. That's my mentality for it.
You move forward now. The win gets you into the pole shootout on Friday, but also gets you into Saturday evening's dual races. So 2 opportunities here for you to lock in to Sunday afternoon's PGR 500. Take me through what your game plan will be moving forward here as you get ready to prep for your next 2 races on tap to try to make the Sunday feature.
Just stay out of the chaos. That's the main thing. Just see how the race is playing out and go from there. It's just going to be all instinct. I don't even know how many laps there is for the pole shootout, so I don't even know if there's strategy involved for pitting. But yeah, I'll just try to stay up front, stay out of the wrecks, and yeah.
Looking forward to that later in the week. First, though, you're in victory lane tonight in heat race number 8, so we do want to give you a quick opportunity before we let you go to start to get prepared. Is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Just like to thank Mark for allowing me to do this. Cody also for giving me a heads up of what to do, and also you guys for broadcasting this, and everyone else that hosts this, and just allowing me to be a part of it.
Well, thanks for taking the time to talk to us here after your victory in heat race number 8. Congratulations on the effort. Go enjoy it. Go celebrate. We'll see you in the pole shootout on Friday.
Thank you.
All right, Dylan Alt, your race winner here in Heat 8 of the night. 3 heats down, Dawson 3 more, I should say. But really a similar story. A lot of chaos, especially on the last laps of these races. And we saw more big names eliminated. Dylan Alt, though, to a degree, felt like he finally broke the curse for the Coke guys by getting the win here in heat race number 8.
Yeah, you could not have felt like there was much confidence there for Dylan Alt coming into this race, watching a few of them, just one after another, go down in these heat races and not be able to advance further. But for Dylan Alt, that's a big achievement for him. You heard him say that he's not much of a plate guy. We've seen him run well on plate tracks at the Coke Series level, so knew that he had some pedigree to come in and run well, and does so tonight. A big confidence boost for him, and he'll now get to race in the pole shootout on Friday. A heck of an effort, and definitely a great opportunity for him now to race into Sunday afternoon's 500-mile Great American Sim Race. Want to tell you really quick, we did get a call down from race control. Andrew Voigt has been disqualified at the end of tonight's race for the move below the yellow line on the final lap in the tri-oval. Mark Rogers, by virtue of that, will go from 11th to 10th, and Rogers takes the final LCQ transfer spot. Again, that's the 9 of Andrew Voigt, who will be eliminated tonight by virtue, again, of that move below the yellow line. Man, other than that, chaos at the end strikes again. It's been the story of the week. Dylan Alt lucky enough to be ahead of it at the end of it.
He certainly was, and for the drivers that haven't gotten an opportunity to hit the high banks yet this week, their heat races are coming up over the next couple of days. 8 heats down, still 4 to go. And before we start to transition and wrap things up here for the night, do want to make sure that we give another huge thank you to all the sponsors that help make this happen. Of course, our flagship sponsor, That Towing Company, for all that they do for PGR. CCR with Flying Aces TV, Chris Carter. I'm sure, I was hoping we'd see him this week, but we certainly appreciate him for his sponsorship. NBG Motorsports and Dadbod Studios for their associate sponsorship as well. And your heat race sponsors here tonight, 3 of them. It kicked things off with Smooth Riders Smoothies earlier for Heat 6. Heat 7 was Brown Butter Productions, and Heat 8 was JW Paints. And that is going to wrap it up just about for us up here in the booth. On behalf of my partner, Dawson Wise, I'm Austin Green. Tyler Vickery was doing all the pit reporting. We appreciate his efforts. And our amazing producer, DJ Lyon, for covering all the hard work behind the scenes. We've got much more action coming up this week, and it will continue tomorrow night right around 8 p.m. Eastern. That is when Heat Race 9 will kick off. We'll see you back then. As for tonight, we hope that you enjoyed. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night from Daytona.